Hello and welcome to Everyday Eternal number 96, your favorite, most deceptively named bi-weekly legacy podcast. With me tonight, as always, is my co-host Callum from the UK. Callum, how is it going? How is Great Britain doing?
I'm good. Actually, pretty good. Every time you've asked me that in the past, it's always come up as COVID stuff. But yesterday we got our plans for getting out of lockdown and stuff. Things are really looking up here, and I have no complaints. I've just been playing so much Legacy again, and I'm so happy with it, and I just love it. It's like this old friend that you haven't seen for a long time, or that went through a phase that they changed and you didn't really like the way they've changed, but then they snapped out of it and now they're back and you're having a great time with them again. So I've just been jamming loads and loads of Legacy. Like last week I went to sleep thinking, oh, I just want to play some Legacy, and I have been. I played all weekend and it's just brilliant. How about you?
Legacy you played, and the way you played, we're surely going to talk about that a little bit on the podcast, because we've been talking about, we wanted to take you guys to the fucking promised land, the land beyond Oko, the land beyond Astrolabe, and throw Dreaded Arcanist into it as well. We promised we would take you there, and I guess we, by proxy of Wizards, took you there. And I mean, that's not only us, that's so many people who were pissed off by all these cards and they're fucking gone. And that's just so amazing. I don't even remember, did we talk? Yeah, we talked about the bans, right? And then you went on and you bulldozed Legacy. You jumped into a couple of tournaments and you destroyed everything with your new creations. And I'm so excited to talk about that. Yeah. But yeah, I've been feeling the same. I think the last, ever since the bans, a week or so ago, I've played more Legacy Leagues than in the 2 or 3 months prior. That's pretty insane. I've played tons of Maverick, tons of Green-White Maverick. But then I also felt dudes, that Elves has a shot at maybe being quote unquote the best, even though it's way too early to really say that. Elves has a shot at being a really top tier 1 deck right now, so I might as well play that. And I jumped to a league, I got the 5-0, and I got to play Nissa fucking Vital Force again. I think that's how she's officially called, and that card feels so good. You can pull off the craziest stuff with Nissa. I don't even get it. The ultimate comes down the very next turn. It's even better. Actually, no, that's not better. That's not even better than Oko.
Well, yeah, Oko ultimate's the second turn as well.
Oh, that's actually crazy.
Never try and compare something to Oko. It just doesn't work. Don't worry about it. It's gone now. We don't have to worry about it again.
Yeah, Are you sure it's not hiding under my bed and trying to like me while I sleep?
Oh dear.
Julian wakes up in the morning and finds himself all transformed into an egg.
Don't worry,
Shout out if you got the reference.
Nissa's there to protect you. Nissa's there to protect you.
Yeah, I don't even blame Nissa for a weird addiction to forests and lands anymore. I keep saying that. I think you talked about the friend who has changed. Nissa never really changed. No. Nissa pretended to be a friend. She I don't know, appropriated that whole elves culture, but in reality, she really only cares about lands because she rarely ever has any relevant elf synergies. But I guess it's kind of hard, right? They want to make her part of the Chasters League or whatever they call it, part of the big names in Magic. And if you make her too elf specific, then she's really only going to be played in a very small subset of decks, as opposed to right now. I guess she's destroying standard and stuff. I guess that's how it just works. Have you seen that amazing meme? Basically, Batman walks in and he has magic on his head, and he says, "You destroyed my favorite format." And then you got the villain, and he has got the Simic symbol on his head, and he says, "Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down?"
But I guess it's true. It's just it's weird because Simic was always the laughing stock. It was always pretty much the worst guild. You got things.
What? Rakdos?
No, well, Rakdos always was pretty solid colors. I mean, this is pre the last 2 years, of course, but Simic was never a good color combination.
Yeah, I guess Simic was supposed to be for the Timmies, or rather for the Johns and Timmies.
It was support colors and stuff. It was never, I don't know, it never screamed good. You had stuff like that. I don't know, the 6/6 flying hexproof or shroud kind of stuff, big things.
Simic Sky Swallower. Dude.
Exactly. Yeah.
That used to be a thing.
I mean, Mystic Snake is still one of the coolest cards ever, but I don't know. It was never
so
great.
Mystic. So off topic, but what would you say? What is the spikiest of them of all the guilds? Which ones are up there?
I don't know. It's hard because the spiky ones also have very casual flares to them as well. Because my first instinct was blue black because it's I don't know. But then Yeah, Demi, exactly. But then I think kind of Boros might be as well. Like the Boros that people like, the casuals like, is like the angels and dragons and big stuff. But Spike's like the super aggro Boros decks, maybe. I'm not sure. I think all guilds and color combinations can be like tuned to Timmy or Spiky.
Yeah. I was going to say Boros, Dimir, but also Golgari, because Golgari usually like is good in weird ways. But as you mentioned, they also have, I think it's a testament to how well all these guilds and the entire realm of Ravnica is designed, that they both satisfy like the casual Timmy, I guess, but also like the super spiky people and the
makes
guilds
sense,
have that kind of flavor.
I didn't think.
I wonder if aren't they like putting out like an MMORPG of? I mean, as long as it's not like gonna be a MOBA or something of Magic. I wonder whether that one's actually going to be set. Is that going to be set in Ravnica? That would be the smart choice, right?
I don't know much about it. One of my friends, like local London friends, he's been playing it. He got the early access, and he says it's really good. I don't know much more than that. Like, I don't really play computer games very much, so I've not applied or anything. But he says it's cool. It's fun. It's better than he expected. So I don't know if it's in Ravnica.
Wait. You're not playing any kind of video games?
No, not really.
What's the last video game you played? Like more than 5 hours?
More than 5 hours? That's a really long time to play a game. Holy shit. I was about to say Call of Duty, but I'd never played it for like 5 hours in a row.
Like the entire series, like all 27 games or something, 5 hours total. Okay, I'm not going to put you on the spot. I'm not going to put you on the spot.
I don't remember.
I recently started playing a lot more again. I mean, by recently, I mean last couple of years after like not doing. There was always this feeling of like, no, I only gotta play something that's online, that's competitive, that's gonna get me ahead in life, which is like, yeah, that's what I told myself. I mean, not talking about you, like everybody plays for different reasons, but for me, it truly was like that.
Have you played? I'm saying, have you played a game? And I can't remember it because I meant to play with some friends after this podcast, and the game is meant to be amazing. Let me find the name. 1 second. Rock and Stone. Have you played that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, apparently,
is that like the beginner's version of Rock Paper Scissors?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
What, are you serious?
No. It's like a team game where you go into mines and you have to like mine stuff. It's apparently got one of the highest ratings on some big gaming website. So.
Okay, never heard about that. Maybe we should make a podcast about that.
Yes, definitely. It's
Rock
perfect.
and Stone. It doesn't sound as
from
cool, like...
from you that hasn't heard of it and me that doesn't remember the name and never plays games. We bring you the Rock and Stone podcast.
And actually, it has like a much better. Like it actually sounds pretty bad. Like you go to like some kind of Twitch convention and people are like, "Oh, what are you playing?" I'm like playing. "Oh my god, this awesome game!" And I'm playing this awesome game. And what are you doing? "Oh, we're doing Rock and Stone, man, old school."
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. But dude, what else have you been up to?
I've been ignoring your requests for information for the site you're working on. I'm pretty good at that.
Oh, yeah.
You keep asking for a picture and information about myself and all these kind of things, and I'm doing really well at this. Like, you thought I was doing well at Legacy over the weekend? Well, I killed this. So, anyway, apart from that, it's been a week since we last recorded, so nothing else especially exciting has happened. Just Legacying, which, as you said, I had a pretty good weekend, so we'll get into that later. What about you, though? You've been working on other things? You said you played Elves and Maverick, but other stuff going on?
Yeah, like you mentioned, I've still been working on the website. I actually was going to come up with our new logo last year, but I commissioned a couple of artists, and I wasn't really satisfied too much, especially like when you think that I want to move ahead with all of this, like on a somewhat bigger scale, then you really want to be like sure about the logo and everything. And I wasn't really feeling it, so eventually I took it up on myself to learn Illustrator, and I guess my trial is about to run out, so I gotta hurry. But yeah, Illustrator is insane. Illustrator is absolutely insane, but I'm making good progress, and I hope that we're gonna put that out. And yeah, I'm not gonna put a deadline out there. It's done when it's done, but that's pretty amazing. I want to do much better with that. And yeah, that's me, and having a good time. Hoping that that whole COVID situation is gonna get better eventually, so we can get more people to Kenya again. Because right now we're getting a lot of locals, but of course in the long run, if you want to be profitable, you also gotta get international tourists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely makes sense. Hopefully it's opening up back soon. So in the UK, as I mentioned before, we've been given this plan to hopefully have restrictions lifted by June. So maybe the rest of Europe. Well, I said the rest of Europe. We're not in Europe anymore. Oh my god. In Europe, you'll have similar things.
there's this weird thing that I only later learned about, that generally speaking, even before Brexit, like some people in Britain didn't consider like Great Britain to be part of Europe geographically because it's an island. Like, what the fuck?
that was weird.
I always thought that's like, yeah, I don't know. I always felt like there was a bit of exceptionalism. It's like, no, there's like North America, there's Europe, and then there's Great Britain. It's like, yeah, that's a little bit, I don't know. Anyway, in speaking of, I don't even know what I was.
In speaking of Great Britain not being in Europe,
I have so much trust in me being able to spontaneously pick up any kind of link of what I just said to move on. But I really just want to talk about what you did to the format, because I think in our last podcast, everybody could tell that we were super excited about what's to come. And you said that you had like so many thoughts in your head, and you tweeted about it, and you mentioned it in like some of our legacy chats in our Discord, that there's like 10 different things you want to do in the format. And apparently the one thing you really wanted to do was to cast Off One Mind. And before we move ahead, let's mention again what the card does, because the card, it came out in, oh god, is that Ikoria?
Yep.
Oh, yep. Okay, it's actually not that old then. I don't
know.
No,
it's very new. It's like a few sets ago.
It has a horse on it and a girl, and she's I don't know, praying together with the horse. It's a sorcery, 2 colorless and a blue. Draw 2 cards. This is basically divination.
Yep.
But now here's the thing: it costs 2 less if you control a human and a non-human creature. So if you control a human and a non-human, it's 1 mana sorcery, draw 2 cards, which by legacy standards, it's absolutely busted. How did you arrive at this? Because the list itself, that's an Esper list, right? It's basically Esper mid-range control. And I mean, we're probably not going to go into everything, but before we start out, I'm quickly going to mention the rough shell of it so people can have an idea. You can also find the links in the show notes. So the list that Callum created, it has 20 lands, Esper mana base, 4 basic lands, and he runs 3 Baleful Strix, 3 Monastery Mentor, 3 Snapcaster Mage, making a comeback. 4 Planeswalkers, he's got 2 Teferi, 1 Chase the Mind Sculptor. Basic instance that you would guess: 4 Brainstorm, 4 Swords to Plowshares, 3 Force of Will, 2 Force of Negation, 1 Fatal Push. And for the sorceries, there's 4 Ponder, 3 of One Mind, 2 Inquisition of Kozilek, 2 Hymn to Torach, 2 Unearth, and Legacy All-Star,
Drumroll.
1 Vindicate.
Hell yeah. Fucking Vindicate. How sick is that card? So, so shall I take it from the top and just kind of go over some things? I'll be honest, Of One Mind is just a bit of a pet card. I've always enjoyed kind of draw 2 cards that are playable in these kind of mid-rangey control shells. Like Predict is one of my favorite cards. And I've always thought that raw cards are really powerful in Legacy, because on one hand, especially in decks with Force of Will, they offset the -1 card pretty well. And I don't know, a lot of cards in Legacy just get incremental advantage which aren't raw cards. And so stuff like Painful Truth has always been really good. And I've always thought Night's Whisper is a very underplayed card. And so Of One Mind, I've just loved it for ages. So this deck is kind of a continuation of the Lurrus Grixis Pyromancer deck I made a while ago, obviously during the Companion era. So if you go back to that and look at this deck, it's really, really super similar. So the thing that makes these decks work is because Of One Mind gets triggered, or like it gets reduced from... Enabled. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. By Monastery Mentor or Young Pyromancer, because both of those cards make a token that isn't a human, and they are humans themselves. So Young Pyromancer makes elementals, and Monastery Mentor is a human monk, but it makes monk tokens, not human monks. So you can play these cards and play 1 spell, and then you should get the Of One Mind for 1 blue mana. The reason why, these cards were all obviously legal during the Oko times, but these token makers were just really bad in the face of Oko, because it's not just that Oko would plus on them and then they would lose their token making abilities, but they both got taken by the -5 if you played it onto a board with Oko already. So I don't know, Mentor was just not a reasonable threat for a long time, I think. And so going back to it, I just really wanted to play Of One Mind because it's just a card I love. So that was the reasoning for this. It's not that I thought that Esper was especially... Actually, I'm quite high on this because, which I'll explain in a minute. But it's not that I wanted to play a fair deck per se. It was just because of this. So what made me change from the Grixis list previously to this one? I think Of One Mind is actually better with Young Pyromancer, and the Grixis colors, the cards, are actually just a bit better. But I think Source of Plowshares is super, super, super important right now because, 1, Uro still exists. Swords is not a good answer for Uro, but it's a lot better than 2 Lightning Bolts. That's the first thing. Secondly, I expected Shadow to be very good straight after this because big creatures I think are good again. We talked about this on the last thing about winners, so I really expected Death Shadow and Gomag Angler and stuff like that, and Night of the Rinkery to be back. So again, I just really wanted Source Splashes over Lightning Bolt. Other winners from the bans, as we said, were Doomsday and Omnitel. I expected them to be very good, so I really wanted a good combo matchup. So I have 4 Meddling Mage in the sideboard. I have extra Discard in the sideboard. Discard is hit and miss. They have Veil of Summer, which I'll get to soon, about combating that. But that's how I ended up on Esper, basically. Just because you have access to the Mentor with the Over One Mind kind of package. And Source of Passions is just super important.
Looking at the deck, I think Teferi is also doing a lot of work for this deck. You can pull off so many insane things with all your sorceries there.
Yeah.
Like just from the top of my mind, we speak about stuff like Draw Step, Him to Torach, or even like Draw Step Inquisition if they're like on one card. You've pulled off some insane Unearth tricks in the match that I watched. Like the entire thing was on Twitch, right? Your finals opponent streamed it, and actually that's the only thing I saw. But your finals was absolutely insane. I hope the VOD is going to be there for a while because I'm going to link it in the show notes. Definitely check it out. And yeah, do you want to walk us through the craziest play that you did in the finals? That I think I created a clip and I posted it all over social media because that was the moment I really fell in love with the deck.
That wasn't even the craziest one. I think you've missed another thing I posted then. So to walk through the finals thing, my opponent, I had a Teferi on like 2 loyalty, I think, and I had no board presence and I had 5 mana up, and my opponent attacked with a Plague Engineer into the Teferi and a Death Shadow at me, and it's like a 2-turn lethal, whatever. And so in the combat step, again, I know that nothing can get counted. I think they had a daze and maybe a piece of removal. I can't quite remember. Maybe it's like a whale.
They also had Liliana, but it was already used.
Yes. So I flash in a Snapcaster Mage, target Unearth. The Unearth flashes back, targets the Baleful Strix. The Baleful Strix comes in, and then with my last mana, I get to cast an Of One Mind from my hand for the 1 mana as well after blocks. So the Snapcaster trades off with the Plague Engineer that was named Monk. Then the Baleful Strix trades off with the Death Shadow, and then so they have no more threats in play. They played a the Spellbelly Whale. I've got the exact name. I always forget.
The flying Ethereal Forager.
Ethereal Forager.
James Shue's pet card.
Yeah, the card is great actually in that deck, so we can talk about that later. I had drawn a Force and a blue card off the Of One Mind, so I forced that, untapped, and vindicated the Liliana. And I think it went from like they thought they couldn't win to I just killed everything and it was all gone. So that was
when I was watching it, like I only watched it from their side, and I felt like the game was pretty even most of the time. But once they got to that point, I was like, okay, well, I guess second place is also going to be good enough. And then Callum Cannon was like, no. Like you went Super Saiyan on those guys. That was pretty insane. And I think I saw the second thing that you posted where you also had like another insane blowout. How often does that actually happen? Like, how important is Teferi to the deck to take it to the next level?
Massively, actually. So I think I want to add a third. I didn't realize how good it is. So another frequently asked question is, Veil of Summer is still legal in the format, and I think it's actually been played a lot more than previously. But I'm still running 2 Inquisition of Kozilek and 2 Him to Turek with a third Him in the sideboard. Teferi is like absolutely vital to let these resolve. Because you're a blue deck, you still do represent like counter magic and stuff, and so I think the combo decks, they see your black mana and they know, and if you discard them turn 1 with an Inquisition especially, they will leave up Veil, and it's like a pseudo Rishadan Port. So what I've been doing in these combo matchups is I try and like play a discard spell turn 1. Hopefully I have an Inquisition turn 1 so that they know I'm discard based, and after sideboard they probably can guess as well from the mana base. And then I don't play the discard into Veil unless I feel like I'm about to die. Then you just hope they don't have it. But I try and like cantrip into a Teferi, and then you can get it off. And because they've sculpted their hand to be like, playing this Veil game, it's usually Teferi is like, it makes your force just like an auto counter. It almost like deletes 2 Veils from their hand, so it's like plus card advantage already. It draws a card, and then you start doing like the really cool draw step hymns and stuff, which I have actually been doing as well. Just to say the other play because it's so sick. My opponent had I think it was like a Noble Hierarch equipped with a Jitte and a Sword of Fire and Ice, and I have like a Narset and Teferi in play. So they attack one of the Planeswalkers, and I get to flash Unearth, return a Mentor, cast Vindicate on the Jitte, in response to the Vindicate, they try and kill the monk that the Vindicate made. In response to that, I cast an of 1 mind to make it a 2/2, and then I cast another of 1 mind. So I've drawn 4 cards, and then the 5/5 Mentor blocks the Noble Hierarch, eats it, and it's just, and they conceded right there, which makes sense.
Wait. They casted stuff in response, and you're Teferi?
No, they used the Jitte counter to try and kill a.
Okay, yeah.
Which I then got to save as well. So I went from like an empty board of creatures and them thinking they can attack through with this like suited up creature to just like everything dead. Yeah. So this is I underrated Teferi in the deck. It's obviously a really good card already. So I think I will be adding a third in. It's really key to beating Veil, and it's just great to get tempo. Like the deck is kind of clunky at times. You had like the Mentors are 3 mana, the Snapcasters are 3+ mana, like your Strixers are 2. This is why it's important to have like the Swords of Plowshares and a Fatal Push to try and like kill stuff early. Him can be a clunky card as well. So this is where Unearth comes in quite clutch. Unearth lets you kind of jam Mentor turn 3, and if it gets bolted or dazed or whatever, you're usually pretty okay with that, and then you get to Unearth it and then like triple spell that turn. That's always the turning point. This is what I've been doing against Delver almost every time. You jam a Mentor turn 3, and then you set up this Unearth play for like turn 5-ish or something. And you turn the game around really fast. Like Mentor kills incredibly fast in this deck because of 1 mind just snowballs. Because you can cast it for its cheap cost with Snapcaster as well. So I mean, I've had plenty of turns where I've cast 3 in a turn. It feels like a combo deck later. So yeah.
I can really tell you're insanely excited about this, and seeing this in action, this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. I'm actually kind of scared of the deck. Playing like the kind of decks I want to play. I have some Maverick. I just see the Plague Engineers, and usually like the main deck. Actually, I wouldn't mind the main deck too much, I guess. But it's also like it's
Mentor has been the key to beating up the bad matchups. Like it usually is, but especially in this deck. If it weren't for something like Mentor, this deck could never, ever in its wildest dreams beat like Cavern named Goblin Mogwai Marshal. Like that is unbeatable. So, but Mentor does silly things. Like in the challenge, I killed a player from like 38 life in 2 turns because you kind of go ballistic with it. So
yeah, especially like you almost get to a feeling of playing Vintage, right? When you pay 1 mana to draw 2 cards. That certainly reminds me a little bit of like crazy Vintage chains where you just like draw half your deck in like 2 turns or something. That's pretty exciting.
Teferi also very often bounces a Snapcaster, which flashes back of 1 mind as well. Like it's just so much value.
You thought we were smart playing like Predict and stuff. I feel like there's in Legacy there's been this evolution of finding alternate card draw. Like I think the first time I found something like this is when people started playing Meditate, not only like for combo turns and High Tide, but also just like to refresh your hand when you're like these super deep control mirrors where skipping your turn basically only meant skip your untap and wasn't that big of a deal. And we didn't have Planeswalkers yet, so it was even less of a deal. So if you could pay like 3 mana and draw a card and basically let your opponent draw a card and skip your untap or something like that, because that's kind of what it did, that was somewhat good enough, especially if your opponent didn't expect it and they kept up mana to their end step and then you cast that. And I always wonder like how slow does the format need to be for that to come back. And then moving on, then we got stuff like Predict, we got stuff like Accumulated Knowledge, and now we're casting off 1 mind. And I'm excited to see where this is going to take us. Also, I can't help it, but the artwork is amazing, and that certainly influences my
I genuinely think the artwork is a big reason why I love it. So if it had bad art, I probably wouldn't be playing it. I wouldn't have tried it in the first place. I'm gonna put my hands up in the air and admit that. Like again,
you know what that tells me. That tells me that if Wizards ever reprinted Word of Command, I don't know, it's probably on the reserve list anyway, that card might actually see play, because I think Word of Command, for as okay as it is as a card, is seeing too little play in Legacy. I mean, it's not super situational, but somewhat. I think the double black is probably like killing it as a card that would actually see play, but it has the potential to be game ending almost, and I don't know. Maybe it was a thing during Dig Through times and blue-black Omnitile for the mirror. But,
I remember that.
Yeah, you cast your opponent's show and tell, and you made that decision to not put anything in, but you put your stuff in. But this is very rare. So what are you calling this deck? Does it have like a super British name? Wigan Kebab Control or something?
Wigan Kebab Control. I love it. I don't know, Esper Mentor, because I think it kind of is a deck already. Like, Nicholas Krul, he won an MKM with something basically like this, and he's always played kind of his Esper piles. I mean that in the most nice way possible. So I think it's it's not like it's a brew because I was building around of one mind to an extent, but it's pretty established as like something that existed already in a different form. So I think Esper Mentor probably works, but if someone wants to call it something else, maybe
Wigan
like
Kebab Control
after a breakfast cereal or something.
Yeah, I was talking to Vince Pleasant Kenobi about Wigan Kebab the other day, and he actually didn't know it. He thought it was like a sex practice or something, and he didn't want to Google it on stream.
Shameful.
I'm actually stupid because I thought Wigan was like a part of London, but apparently it's like something from the north.
Yeah, somewhere else. Away from us. Get away from us.
Yeah, it was so hard for me to actually watch that video where they explained what a Wigan Kebab was. So I was like, oh my god, this is worse than what they speak in Liverpool.
It's awful. It's so bad.
So yeah, you won this, and then the very next day, actually the same day, but it was broadcast the next day, you also entered the Lotus Box Octagon, like these pick-up 8-man legacy events that they started doing again now, so I think that it's going to be a weekly thing again. You enter with $20. If you win 3 in a row, it's basically 8-man top playoffs. You take home 100, and do you also get like free entry into the next one?
That's for the second place.
Oh, you should have gotten second place as well then.
Oh, I know. I should have got first and second. Yeah. Nice idea, Julian. Definitely. So, yeah, I could run through the events. So the Octagon, we played it on Friday night. It was recorded, super smooth. I really recommend playing in them. Like it's really fun because it's pretty short. It took like 2 hours, maybe a bit less. And, it's people that you kind of see in the legacy queues very often. We had some other very good players in it. It's just fun to play like a top 8 playoff. It's just a really fun format to do. And you get to know you're going to be like streamed and stuff. I mean, you're open to a critique of people watching you as well. But so I think round 1 I played against Martin. God, I've forgotten his full name. Sorry, Martin, but one of my favorite
which Martin? What Doomsday Martin?
No, another one. This guy, he is like one of the guys that first made Ruby Storm. I'll get back to it in a minute. He was playing Blue-Red Ruby Storm, basically. And I won the game. I won the match kind of easily. I think it looked easier on coverage than it actually was. Like I cast a bunch of hymns and had some Force of Wills and stuff, and just did the things. He multi-5 in the second game. But I don't know. I really respect the resiliency of that deck. Like they have a lot of draw 3s. They have Pass and Flames as well. So I knew that I was pretty close to actually, not being. I was one top deck away, basically. Second round was a really crazy match against Dino Ket, who's one of our patrons and stuff. It was so cool. So it was all 3 games were just super grindy. We had so much back and forth, and we both were playing lots of mentors. So I have 3, he had 4. Game 3 was just like we went to time, and he ended up essentially decking out because I had casted Teferi and then Surgical his mentors. So shout out to Surgical in these fair mirrors. I sided in 1 because this was actually my plan, because I didn't want to leave on Source of Plowshares in too high numbers, because Mentor was the only scary card to like exile, and you need to have the Source of Plowshares on that turn. And so I figured I would much prefer to lean on the 2 Inquisitions and 3 Hymns to hit a Mentor, or to like maybe Force a Will 1 and he just lets it go because he has more, and then get my opportunity to Surgical it, which is how it played out. So without them, he had like 2 Snapcasters, a Clique, and 2 Jaces to win with. We then had a game state where he had a Jace and I was empty-handed with no board, and the Jace could have...
Also known as the end. Usually.
The end. And on coverage, they called it. They said, this is just over, isn't it? But
I think there's a famous book written by I don't know, some chess grandmaster in the 1920s or something, and it basically reads like, if your opponent untaps with chase and you have no board, it's basically over.
Russian grandmaster said it.
The engine also confirms this. There's basically no way out.
Well, this was a glitch in the Matrix then, and the deck just kind of clawed its way back in. I just kept playing creatures, and then I had my own Jace, which he then had to like kind of spend more resources answering my creatures. And there came up a couple of opportunities where I was, because it was open deck lists, I was ticking. I literally had on my second screen his deck list, and I was ticking off every relevant card left. Yes, this is the only way I can win. Don't let my secrets out. I was ticking off all the relevant cards, and at one point I knew there was like a Snapcaster and a Counterspell left, and so I knew I had 2 Hymns left in my deck as well, so I ended up like finding them in the same turn off a Jace Brainstorm, so it looked kind of like, oh, I got lucky to find these two, and then I just cast them and hit the relevant things. I made him counterspell one, and I knew, because basically I knew that Vindicate was my answer to Jace, and that was my out. So I knew my out was to find the two more hymns, him away, hopefully the Snapcaster and Counterspell, and then resolve the Vindicate on the Jace before the Jace ultimated on me. And it played out like that in the end.
Yeah, that was quite interesting. I was also watching coverage when it aired on I think Anorak's channel, and I think your opponent ended up countering your hymn, and I at that moment I already felt like, I think that's not what you want to be doing. Like, I think the way you want to play it is you let the hymn hit you, and you take the chances of like that them not, or rather, like,
I agree.
And then you take the chances of being left with your counterspell, because the counterspell is going to be so important. Whereas if you trade it off, you are up like one less, or you're down one less card, but you lost the most important card left in your deck, and I think that's
totally. And I completely see why they did it. Like, this is actually a really good lesson in like macro decisions rather than micro decisions. Seeing a whole game plan, because as again, I knew that I just needed to get that Snapcaster and Counterspell. They were probably thinking the hymn could hit the Counterspell anyway. I'm sure they knew it was the best card in their hand, no doubt. But they were thinking, if I Counterspell it, it's at least just a 1-for-1 rather than a 2-for-1. And if it hits the Counterspell, I feel bad because it got an extra card. But yeah, realistically, you need to be looking at your like paths to win in the grand scheme of things, rather than like just focusing on single cards interacting. But at the same time, they were also super low on time. I think at that point it was like 3 or 4 minutes less. So I completely understand just playing faster and stuff. It's a really tough situation to be like that.
Yeah, time was insanely tight. I think I've seen some matches come down to time, and ever since the bans, just because they got so grindy and deep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And finals was versus our friend of the podcast, Ali, on his Ruglands. And yeah, cool games. I got to mentor very quickly. I think both games I played a turn 3 mentor, counted a couple of things, and then just killed him.
But we in speaking of macro decisions again, because this also came up in the coverage, and I think that's just like such an important lesson to take away. Like we got some kind of educational approach here, right? And you ended up letting all the good stuff resolve. You ended up letting the Sylvan Library resolve. You ended up letting the Valakut Exploration resolve. At some point, I think you wanted to even like let resolve Nicole Bolas Planeswalker if they had it. I don't know. You were basically letting everything resolve that you ended up not caring about, and just like throwing mentor tokens at their face. And was this like a conscious decision on the spot? Is this like something you've been working out on a strategic level?
There's so many moving parts. It is a good lesson. So Game 1, they played a turn 2 Sylvan Library, and I top-decked a Mentor to play it on turn 3, which was just the best possible. But basically, at that point in my hand, I had a Teferi to play on turn 3. They would still get an activation out of the Sylvan Library, but my hand was like 2 more lands, so I wasn't really scared of getting ported and wastelanded to death. I had a Strix, a Ponder, a Snapcaster Mage, maybe. My hand was good, I think, and I had the Forcible as well. And I was just confident that I can beat the extra 2 or 3 cards they draw. Like, my deck can still put creatures into play and attack them, and it does put some pressure down. I don't know, basically, Sylvan Library I feel is an overrated card outside of the Euro decks, or from depths against Source Splasher's decks, to be a bit more specific. I mean, it's 2 mana, you pay 8 to 12 life. That is there's a significant amount of life, and you draw these extra cards, but at the same time, like, Sylvan Library can draw cards against my deck, but my deck can also draw cards as well. I have Of One Minds. I don't mind if they combo off with depths as well. I have Source of Powers for it. I felt confident to an extent that I can grind, basically. And I knew that with actually, I had 2 mentors in the deck at this point, so I straight after this match I added the 3rd because it's so good. But I know that Mentor turns the corner so fast, so I was confident in my deck's ability to fight against the Sylvan Library, basically. There are other decks which are weaker to Sylvan Library, which maybe they wouldn't be as confident in, because Mentor really does like change things. So that was.
I guess Grixis Control would be more vulnerable to it.
Yeah, probably because they have a slower clock. They want to win with Planeswalkers, so they're probably weaker to like Punishing Fire as well. They're weaker to the combo because they don't have like a good removal spell for it. So yeah, definitely actually. So that was the Sylvan Library reasoning. I think it was the second game, I let a Valakut Exploration go. And funnily enough, on commentary, both the commentators said like, "Oh, you just snap Forcible this, right?" And In the second match, I had pondered turn 2, and so I knew there was a Mentor on top of my library for turn 3. And at that point, I also had a Surgical, and Ali had played a Life from the Loam. But I'm just like, there was no expiration in play to make the Valakut expiration go nuts. I don't care if he's loaming, like that's really slow. I don't care if he makes land drops. I had a Source of Power in my hand, I think, or a Teferi if he goes for the combo. So I'm not scared of that either. Like I don't care if he's drawing 2 or 3 extra cards if I'm able to hold up this protection. So I didn't Surgical the Loam because at that point in time it was my insurance for Punishing Fire to make Mentor a 3/3. I didn't use the Force of Negation on the Valakut expiration because, again, that's my insurance against Punishing Fire. Or there were some other good cards. He also was leaving up 1 mana, and I know he has Fluster Storms and Veil of Summer in his deck and Pyroblast. So there was some other factors, but also, yeah, I think people look at cards without more context too often. Like they think, okay, this card is good against what my deck's meant to be doing. Like Valakut expiration and Silver Library are insane cards against control in general, but I knew that my game plan of Mentor just trumps it, and so I'm just concentrating on that.
Yeah, it's also a very good thing that you brought up. People have to not only think about cards as being good against my deck, but also in the context of the general matchup. And when you play lands, if the game goes super, super late and everybody gets to do what they want to do, lands is usually ahead, just because the mana advantage and all the stuff they can do with it is just too great, especially after sideboarding, I would guess, if they can also hit your planeswalkers with things. Yeah. But in the early and mid game, especially because of Mentor, you're in a position where you can just take the tempo that you get out of them, basically skipping their turn, or even a second turn, because if you end up paying 8 mana for Silver Library, not only did you kind of skip your turn if you don't have Exploration just to cast it in the second turn, you're also somewhat skipping a turn because you lost 8 life, which is basically another Mentor plus token attack.
Yeah,
so
totally.
If you think about it in that kind of context, then yes, the card is kind of good against me, but usually only in scenarios where I'm probably losing anyways because we are on turn 7 and I don't have creatures and they just get to run away with the game and Punishing Fire and stuff. And I really, really like this decision. And watching the coverage of that event, maybe you can also link the coverage. I think Anorak's channel is going to have it up. And people should watch that because that really is a way to level up in terms of understanding strategy and not only tactics.
Yeah, you really need to, sounds pretty simple when you say it, but you really need to think of everything in the moment. There's tons of situations in this same matchup where I would force a Will of Valakut Exploration, or maybe even a Sylvan Library, though I think it's less scary. If he had led on turn 1 Exploration and then turn 2 Valakut thingy, I probably would have forced that, actually, if he didn't have a mana up to represent Fluster or Veil or something. Because the card with Exploration, it does run away fast, and that's more scary. If I didn't have the Mentor on top of my library, I probably would have forced to build it as well. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of different things, so it just depends. So you really need to just work it out in the moment every time.
Makes me wonder whether you should actually force a full Exploration sometimes.
I knew that
it gets forced.
I knew that I was never Force a Willing. I think Force a Willing Exploration as a Delver deck in game 1 is usually correct, but I think it's very rarely to correct it in sideboard games. We could go into that in another episode.
I guess it's much easier to daze an Exploration because then you're basically getting the same out of it anyways, tempo-wise, but at least they don't have an Exploration for further turns.
True.
But first of all, yeah, it's. I guess it comes down to once again, what's your game plan? Do you have a way to victory that also works well with Force of Will, like Mentor protecting itself from from Punishing Fire through Force of Will?
Yep. But
yeah, we are at a point in Legacy where moving parts matter so much more again. I'm just so happy about that.
Yep, absolutely. So that was the Lotus Box. Really fun. They're doing another one this Friday, so I guess this episode will come out just before then. Highly recommend it. It's very, very fun. The challenge, we can go on to some of my matchups because I really want to point out, not because any of them were specifically interesting, but I played against a different deck every single round, including the top 8, which was just, I didn't actually realize it until I was typing it up at the end of it, but it was so cool. So round 1 was against a Bug, Uro, Field of the Dead control deck with intuition and stuff, heavy graveyard synergies. Very cool. Round 2 was against straight blue-red Delver. Round 3 was against Bant, Blade with Uros and stuff as well. Round 4 was against Doomsday. Round 5 was against Omnitel. Round 6 against Shadow. Round 7 against Miracles. Then quarterfinals against Hogak. Semifinals against Ant. And the finals, I just lied. I played against Shadow twice. Sorry. I would just catch you up. I played against Shadow in the final as well. Notably, the Shadow decks were quite different. The finals one didn't have Delvers. The Swiss one did.
Wait, the finals one didn't have Delvers?
Nope.
Whoa. Those were the Italians, right? Last Hero, I think is his name.
Yeah, this is True Hero. This guy is incredible
hero,
with
yeah.
Shadow. So I highly recommend everyone go check out his Twitch and Twitter and stuff. I think it's Is This True Hero? Or we'll put it in the show notes. He is just phenomenal with the deck. And yeah, he's not playing Delvers. And I think he must have some good reasons. I quite like it. So
Maybe can't afford them.
yeah, clearly.
Oh, but he's playing the whale, elemental
Yes,
whale,
yeah.
the Thera Forager, the 6 mana whale. If somebody had told me that a 6 mana flying whale is going to see playing Legacy, I would have said, dude, only way that works is, I guess, with Delve, and that's basically how it works.
Yeah, it's the same way that we're playing a 7 mana zombie fish.
Is it 7 even? Oh my god.
Go
Yeah. But
Go
actually,
again.
when is the Banana King gonna come back? Legendary Banana King. What's his name?
When-
Tassigor.
I think when Caracas is banned.
True.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Caracas is so good against that guy. It's stupid.
Yeah, it is pretty good. So
Yeah.
So I put together some notes of like commonly asked questions because there has been a bunch of people asking about the things. I did cover some of it in the first bit, but I'll go over some things. So I covered the why this deck because it's a card I love and it's a style I like, and I explained the Esper over Crixus. Territia, I just think Source of Splashes is incredibly important right now. People are playing Shadow, and Shadow had insane results over the weekend. I believe the Saturday challenge, it had like 70-something% win rate, and I see loads of people like winning with it on Twitter and stuff. So
Yeah, Arkan has been doing pretty well with it as well.
yeah, so you really need a plan for that.
For Arkan or for...
Sorry, everyone.
You mean... Okay, just Shadow in general? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm losing my mind here.
Oh, that's fine. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, of one lost mind. So some people have been saying Inquisition over Thoughtseize is weird. It is kind of weird. This is like textbook. What's his name? Check pile creator.
Check pile. Yeah.
Thomas Marr. Yeah, I love this. It's a discard spell that's just good against Delver. I would leave it in every time against Delver, and it's fantastic there. The life loss is really real, and especially in Snapcaster Mage decks, like. When you think of Thoughtseize, like, oh, it's just 2 life, but you do Snapcast these cards back quite a lot, and then 4 life, sometimes 6 life, like, it adds up, and it feels really bad, like, Thoughtseizing a card that's not great, and then losing 2 life in the later game, whereas Inquisition is just, like, at least still trading. Life is super relevant, of course, in Legacy against Delver, so you do miss out on hitting some cards, like Force of Will and Natural Order, sometimes Jason the Mind Sculptor.
Sneak attack.
Yeah, I mean, there is a drop-off, and it is obviously worse in some spots. And you know, if I added another discard spell up to 3 in the main deck, it probably would be the first Thoughtseize over the second or the third Inquisition. But I've been really happy with them for now. They are just they're not like a pinpointed like hammer against combo or whatever. They're just part of the engine that the deck uses and stuff. So that's that. 3 Force of Will. I'm going to come clean. I just wanted to like get 3 Force of Wills posted and be a bit trolly. There is some reasoning for it as well. I just thought it'd be funny to cut one. I didn't want too many force effects because there is like the 2 hymns and the 2 inquisitions, and if you have like too much interaction and not enough like proactive things to be doing and
cards that do something.
Cards that do something. Yeah, exactly. You do run into this thing, like if I had like the whole 4 Force of Wills, 2 to 3 Force of Negations, plus the discard, that is a lot of interaction, especially when your Snapcasters are doubling stuff up as well. And I knew that I really wanted 2 Force of Negation because I think the Exile clause is really relevant. Like I'd been watching what people are doing. Ant had started to do a bit well that week, so Past in Flames. And the deck has... all the blue cards are pretty good, so I didn't really want to pitch them very much. And so Force Negation... I know, it's so greedy. Force Negation is just like, it's very hard castable pretty often. So I knew I wanted 2, and I wanted to cut the first Force of Will before the first Force of Negation from those numbers. So honestly, it's probably right to play 4. Maybe the 4th in the sideboard. I don't know. It's 3 Force of Will has not been like tested that much. It's quite a unusual thing, so I don't know. I think people should try things out like this, and it didn't really bite me.
I always wonder when people only play like 3 forces, then the question that always comes up, and you also just like talked about that, is whether you should play the 4th force in the board. And I always wonder whether that's really the best use of that slot, and wouldn't you rather play something like Flusterstorm, which is kind of the same but more efficient at what it's supposed to do, except for, of course, against this super fast kill you on turn 1 combo decks when you're on the draw. But I don't know, I like having something harder hitting than just Force of Will for combo. Like, sometimes with some control decks, you even get to a point where you're considering siding out a Force of Will or two, when it's like a super grindy control deck, just because you have so much other stuff going on, and you know that if the opponent's deck grinds you down by trading for your Force of Wills, eventually you run out of stuff. Like, in your deck, you have a lot of card advantage, and also you have Mentor, which is probably going to close the game before that ever becomes relevant. But I'm bringing this up because Force of Will isn't that great of a thing to do against combo unless you also have proactive stuff. Like, I guess Meddling Mage counts, that's a good thing. Hull Breacher can count, Narset. That's ways to do it. And if the deck is weak, like if it's a combo deck that's weak to Surgical, then that also helps to basically carve out a room of a couple of turns where you can efficiently use Surgical before they go critical on cards on you, like Doomsday might do. And or Alluren, for example. By the way, I think we also saw Alluren in the top 32. By the way, Alluren playing 2 copies of Alluren, the true value Alluren. I like that.
Love it.
Maybe we're gonna see more of that. So I think I wouldn't play the Force in the board unless you really say I want to be good against, I don't know, whatever kind of super fast combo deck comes out.
I think you'd really want the way you'd want it. Like, I think Mind Break Trap is probably better than that in a lot of spots. Anyway, so you're probably right. And there probably should be a 4th in the main deck, maybe. I don't know. There probably should just be 2 of 1 mines, and I added the 3rd because I just want to cast it more often. So,
But I really like that you get to hardcast the Force of Negation.
Yeah.
I really like that.
I'm really happy with that.
That's such a big upside.
It came up a lot. I have been hardcasting it a lot, so I'm really happy with 2 of those. We'll see about the 4th Force. Vindicate, people have been making fun of me for playing it, or people have either been saying, hell yeah, Vindicate sweet, or what are you doing playing Vindicate? Esper colors are just weak to stuff that Vindicate kills, to put it really simply. I've been killing Jace the Mind Sculptors, Khan the Great Creators, Field of the Deads, like Liliana the Last Hope. It's killed a lot of things. It's been super clutch. I think I would have lost a bunch of matches without it, so it's better than you think. It's really sweet with Teferi as well. Like, that has come up more than I thought. So, I wouldn't play the deck without one of them. It's really key to just have this thing, because the of 1 mines and the 8 cantrips and stuff, you do have a lot of velocity in the deck and selection, so you do find it. So that's good.
Yeah, but every time I was watching some streams, Vindicate eventually came in clutch, and I'm really happy to see that card.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, it killed the Jace in that long game. Like, I did it on like turn 20 something, but I knew that Vindicate was a key part of my game plan when it was in my deck at some point. So it really, really helps. Unearth, this is like everyone's favorite card for good reason. How sweet is Unearth? So there's a really good post by Ozymandias17 on his Twitter that talks about like the new format. He's not super high on fair blue decks, and he says they should be using some kind of mana advantage. Could it be like Noble Hierarch, Ancient Tomb? And he shouts out Unearth as like a tool to do that in the mid game, for exactly the reasons I said earlier. Like against Delver, I just jam a turn 3 Mentor, it dies, gets countered, whatever. And then turn 5, you unearth it, and this is your mana advantage to pull ahead. And it's a pretty good point. And so, as we've discussed, you can also just do like such disgusting things with Teferi. It's also a key part to, I think, keeping the of 1 mines active for the cheaper cost, because you bring back the Strix, the Snapcaster that you want to do. Like, it's pretty common, like in the mid game, to just like have a Strix and Snapcaster you've played early, and then you have one of them in play, the other one in the graveyard. Then you unearth Snapcaster, unearth, bring something back. Like if they're both in the graveyard, you can go unearth the Snapcaster target the unearth target the Strix, then you cast an of 1 mine and stuff. So it kind of it's a bit of a glue that brings stuff together.
It's a big part of, like you mentioned earlier, double and triple spelling on important turns.
Yeah, exactly. It's bad against Source of Plowshare decks. This is like expecting not many of them at first. Miracles will probably come back soon, but I expected Bug Control to be big, which it kind of is so far. Delvers, obviously Blue-Red Delver, maybe Grixis. There's just not a lot of things exiling your creatures like with Source of Plowshares. So I think it's pretty good right now. If control moves like to a predominantly Source of Plowshares kind of shell, then it gets worse and might be cut for other things. Yeah. But for now, it's good.
The thing is, the thing is, looking at your creature suit, your creatures already kind of do their damage as soon as they come into play. So even if somebody gets 2 Swords to Plowshares, your creatures, you already drew the card of the Baleful Strix. You got the trigger of the Snapcaster Mage. Your Plague Engineer already killed stuff. Your Mentor might even have created like 2 tokens or something. So while the Swords to Plowshares, like you mentioned, is kind of good against Unearth, it's not exactly great against the creatures you have. So I think you're striking a really, really great balance there.
It's also, I built the sideboard with Unearth in mind. So there's 3 Plague Engineers, 4 Meddling Mages, and a Hull Breacher, I guess. I knew that I wanted creature hate cards because this is like, I really, really heavily respect Doomsday and Omnitel, and so this was another big thing to go into Esper. So I talked about Grixis removal lining up badly against the format currently, and I think Esper just is like the best shard to beat combo. So I have Discard, I have Counter Magic, and I have Hate Bears. It's just very good against these matchups. So I'm waiting for the day I get to like unearth a Meddling Mage in response to someone like going off with Doomsday.
I want that. You let them even like cycle their stuff, and once they can reasonably represent 2 mana, you get the Meddling Mage out with Teferi and Unearth, and you name Thassa's Oracle, and they're like, pass, GG.
exactly.
It's like Doomsday, sure, resolves. Go ahead, be my guest.
and like Goblins and Elves are trying to kill Plague Engineers, and then you just start unearthing them back. It's pretty hard to grind through. Yeah, there's your nightmare for the evening, Julian.
Yeah, I mean, that's another episode. Bob the Banhammer, he's back in the format. Actually, a lot of people are back in the format. Our friend Marius Hausmann. If you want to hear more of Marius, let us know. I think he's very keen to come on the show again and share some of his thoughts. He just downloaded Magic Online again after being out of it for over a year. So be prepared for Marius of the Moon coming back.
The moon is coming.
Yeah. But I'm talking about Bob because Bob already, he's the visionary, the master of driving the conversation. And 99% of times I agree with him anyway. He's like, okay, now the last 5 cards to slay are like Whale. What do we talk about? Are basically Whale, Plague Engineer, and I think also Allosaurus Shepherd, which he didn't mention, but I added. But yeah, that's another episode. But yeah, Plague Engineer. I think Plague Engineer is really good because people are also trying to make True Name Nemesis a thing, and Plague Engineer is the premier answer to True Name Nemesis. Yeah. So that card is really good.
The card is fantastic in the format right now.
In case you haven't heard about that yet.
Yeah, I mean, the card is great already.
To our Patreon.
But the card wasn't great against Rug Delver before. It was bad against Snow. And all of a sudden, it's Elves is super strong, so it's good there. Goblins is being played a bit more. D&T is being played a bit more again. There's probably other things as well, like people playing
Balloran with it.
Yeah, people playing Baleful Strix again.
Sorry to interrupt you. Which creature type do you name against Balloran? Drum roll.
Beast.
You can play at home as well. Yes, Beast.
There we
Beast,
go.
because Kevin Harpy is a beast.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So unearthing Plague Engineer is pretty sweet. Finally, so people have been saying like, you know, they look at the list and they see the discard spells, especially him, and they're like, hey, you know, Veil of Summer's still legal. And like, I don't have a fantastic argument, if I'm honest. I just felt like discard spells work with this game's plan and curve, and I don't know, I feel like the deck can punish people leaving up mana as well by like just slamming a Mentor, slamming a Teferi.
Let's see how many Veils there actually were in the top. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. There's a couple. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say maybe people are not really bringing back Whale, but some are. Okay, there's actually quite a bit.
So in the challenge, I played against Veil 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds, and they all cast it against me. But the deck does power through it. As I said earlier, Teferi is a really key part of it because. So against the fair decks, they need to be really ahead on board to be able to punish you heavily for it. Because again, like, this is the power of, if you're weak to Veil, but you're playing stuff like Ponders and Brainstorms, you can like just get the discard later when you want it, or like put it back and stuff with Brainstorm. I just found that the deck is very good at not casting the discard if you don't want to. There are some awkward moments, especially Omnitel is the scary deck that can leave up Veil and then just kill you. So yeah, it's pretty good there, but other times, my Ant opponent in the semi-finals, he was streaming and I went back and watched it. And in the second game, he left up Veil for the first 4 turns. I didn't cast anything. Then he brainstorms, puts them back, and then I start discarding him. Something like that. So, I don't know.
And then he accused you of ghosting.
No. I don't think it actually played exactly like that. But it was something like that where I just wasn't casting things. And I was playing Meddling Mages as well. So That was it. I had a him on turn 2, and he like left the mana open. So I was like, okay, well, I'll slam Madly Mage then. And then the moment he taps out, I was going to him. He didn't, and then he brainstormed later, and things changed. But I don't know. Like, I don't think Veil is as bad for the deck as people think. It's again one of those things like we were talking about earlier, where it looks bad on paper. Like again, like the Valak Expiration, you should force it because it looks like it's good against your deck on paper. In practice, I really think you can do other things to mitigate it. So.
You know what's also interesting that sticks out to me? You talked about the synergy between casting Discard and Teferi in the face of Veil. Of all that, for example, in the challenge, I just looked at the list in your challenge here. There's only a single, like while there's a lot of decks playing Veil, there's only a single deck playing Veil and Pyroblast, and that's actually the Punishing Maverick deck of Ozymandias. And that there's a good chance you might even like take out some discard. So people can't go like, oh, okay, Teferi, now I'm going to start a fight with Pyroblast. No, it's usually going to resolve, and then Veil is going to be turned off, and whatever else you have. Even the Flusterstorm. So they would need something else on top. They would need like a Force of Will, and then they can start fighting. So there's a lot of scenarios where you just like drop the Teferi, and then you destroy them with whatever you have, and then they untap, and then maybe they Pyroblast your Teferi, but the damage has been done, and they are still sitting on their Veil.
Yep, absolutely. That has happened multiple times as well, and the draw step discard is pretty real. Like it has happened quite a lot. It's not just like a kind of really sweet thing you can do. It is legit good, because when you start snap hemming, they get empty handed. That's where you start like snap inquisitioning and stuff. So yeah, pretty strong.
You like torturing people.
I don't know, man. It's just I just try and build a deck that wins, even if it's sweet.
This is just like a deck for people who like value, but I guess for Marcos there would be too many creatures. I don't know. I think Marcos was never a mentor guy, right?
No, he's coming around to it, and at least like the other ones draw cards. He likes Strix and Snapcaster. But
dude, Snapcaster Mage being back feels good. That just feels right for Legacy.
I love playing with the card. It's lovely. There's even a Jace in the deck because I think this deck can use a Jace pretty well. That's quite self-explanatory.
I love it as a one-off, right? It's not like your ultimate goal is to get chased down and defended, basically like kind of like a Miracle stack. It just happens to be there when you flood out or like you get to a longer game, then you get this extra tactical tool, but your main strategy is Mentor and value, and then there's also a Chase, which usually allows to basically put even more pressure on your opponent, but Chase is not the very point of the deck. Yep,
absolutely. Two last things just like quickly touch on. The mana base, I am a very bad mana base builder. I don't have any shame saying that. So there's a very good chance someone can build something better. I just threw 2 of each dual land in there because I don't want to be wastelanded off the first one. And I was like, yeah, that's probably fine. And then the basics. I knew I wanted 2 islands because Snapcaster cantrip off the 2 islands is a pretty common thing against wasteland decks. Most common play patterns are like Terminal Underground Seed, turn 2 Scrubland. So the second Scrubland is pretty good. Tundra is probably the worst duel in the deck, which is weird. Scrubland's better than Tundra. Heard it here first. But yeah, other people might build a better mana base. And the sideboard is mostly just respect for combo, a good combo, including Elves, Doomsday, and Omni. It can definitely be improved as well. The Hull Breacher and Narset are kind of just good cards. They're not super necessary. The extra Hymn could be something else as well. Maybe a Thoughtseize. But I quite like it. But if all the combos...
sweet. Could the Disenchant beat like a Null Rod or something?
Could be.
Is that crazy?
No, it's not crazy at all, actually. Like I wasn't,
especially if A&T comes back.
Well, I wasn't super scared of A&T or Tez, to be honest.
Yeah, it's more like a catch-all. Like the way I would see it, in the first place, it's there to hit like wild decks, Death and Taxes first of all, but also the Urza Stompy deck, and then you also do some splash damage against all the other decks, right? The upside, of course, is Disenchant. You get to hit stuff like Omni, you get to hit stuff like Sneak Attack.
Yeah, I think that I like Disenchants in like Snapcaster Mage decks. It just always performs great.
Oh, the Philipp Schoeniger deck building.
Exactly.
School. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Someone did call out Disenchant should be Nature's Chant, and I have the most like pedantic niche answer, but I did think of it before the challenge, and the reason to play Disenchant is because Steel Stompy I thought might be played a bit more, and Nature's Chant can't kill a Stonecaller Serpent.
Yeah.
And so
it's multicolor.
And so I thought that had a higher chance of coming up than someone like Meddling Maging or Surgical Extracting Disenchant. I couldn't
you
really...
actually would ever like in which matchup would somebody Meddling Mage Disenchant?
Exactly.
Maybe like the craziest game against Esper Wild where they really want to protect the wild. That's so random.
So exactly. So I couldn't see those scenarios coming up. So I went with something that kills Stonecoil Serpent. That's literally it. It's so niche, but yeah, it's fun to think about these things.
The true answer is that you own the Arena League promos in real life and they're so sweet and you want to play them. That's what I would say.
God, no, I've got the old artwork. No.
So, Callum, you are the master of Legacy now. You share the throne for a week with, well, who wouldn't know it? Sunday Legacy Challenge won by our good friend Jonathan Angelescu.
Surprise, surprise.
JPA93. Yeah, nobody could have seen that coming, right?
No. He just casually 10-0s the Sunday Challenge. Like, for me, I snuck into top 8 at 5-2 and then managed to win out. He's just like, yeah, whatever, 7-0 Swiss, just crush everyone, just kill everything. Everything's so easy. So, you know, it's so funny. I've never been happier to see Sneak and Show do well. It's that
we'll see about that.
It's that big loud cousin that you don't really like, but you kind of missed because you were dealing with a bigger, louder cousin.
Having Sneak and Show in the metagame and doing stuff is a little bit like watching Tiger King. Like if you're in the mood, you enjoy it. Like you want to see the big stupid thing happening. You don't want it to happen like all the time. But yeah, the big stupid cousin, I guess. The most beautiful thing to me about the deck is that he's playing 2 copies of Vendilion Click in the sideboard.
I didn't see that.
It might be my favorite card together with Noble Hierarch. And I guess the combo of turn 1 Noble Hierarch, turn 2 Vendilion Click has always been my favorite opening in Legacy. But yeah, it's not happening in this deck. I guess you can turn 1 with Lotus Battles. Interestingly, he's not playing the Dazes. I think he's been on record saying whenever he doesn't know what to do in the metagame, he just champs the Dazes. But this time he's playing 2 Spell Piercers and 2 Flusterstorms.
I think he says he plays Dazes and Simian Spirit Guides when Delver's very good. Because against Delver, you want to just go under them and like not give them time to set up. But now, I guess expected like slower matchups. I mean, this is really, it all hinges around Dredgehorde, right? Like he doesn't need to just jam into things. He can take his time, set up mana, set up like his classic show and tell with 10 forcible backups and go from there.
Who hasn't been there? Like we've all been there. Yeah.
But actually, what I realized was it's not that I'm especially happy to see Sneak and Show back. Like the deck can be pretty miserable to play against at times. I'm just happy to see him back. He's one of the most like consistent players of all the Magic Online events, and he's just one of the guys that loves Legacy most. And to see him really unhappy with the format for so long was just quite upsetting. So I don't know. I just felt so good seeing him happy again. Yeah.
Shout outs to JPA.
Yeah, man.
By the way, second place, we have Sylvia Vataro, who's usually like, I think Sylvia is a Japanese Legacy grinder, and at least I follow them on Twitter, and I see like all these posts about Rock Delver. But for this challenge, they actually played. This is more like Bug. Yeah, it's not more like Bug Delver. It's straight up Bug Delver.
This is wild. This is like, I mean, there's 4 Uros. But other than that, this is like a really old kind of deck list. There's 4 Dark Confidence and a Creeping Tar Pit. Julian, if you told me a Creeping Tar Pit was in like second place of a Legacy Challenge a few weeks ago, I'd probably laugh. Like, nah, no way.
Yeah. What's it supposed to do? Like attack what? Oko?
Attack an Oko down to 12.
Pretty much. But yeah, like you mentioned, it uses that really old school thing of pairing like 4 Dark Confidence and a Buckshire, which hasn't really been a thing in quite a while, but they almost took on the entire event, and it's I'm just scared and excited at the same time to see 4 Auras in that deck. But the Dark Confidence really making me excited for it, because I think Dark Confident it didn't really have a spot in the metagame, right? When you can play Dread or Darkness, why would you ever play Dark Confident? There have been good comparisons made about like how Dread or Darkness was infinitely better than Dark Confident. But even before Dread or Darkness became a thing, Dark Confident was barely even a thing in Legacy. Like people played in 4-color Loam, and only because you could get it out on the first turn. But here, we got a deck that can go like turn 1 Delver, turn 2 Dark Confident. Yeah. And then you're like in this weird spot where you kind of want to kill it with the Confident, but you also probably got to deal with the Delver rather soonish, especially if it flips. I wonder.
It's pretty scary.
What would even be the alternative? Like, I guess you could play 2 more Tarmogoyfs, but I don't know how good that would be.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I was kind of building this kind of thing, I probably would have started with 2 Bobs, because I'm just so unsure of how good it is these days. But hey, life loss is mitigated by Uro, right? So.
Oh, yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. It just seems very good, actually, in this deck, which is cool. Because, yeah, Sylvia, they play, like, mostly more aggressive styles of Delver that I've seen. Like, they were always on Rug Delver for the last year or 2. And before that, I've seen them play a lot of, like, the Stifle Mongoose kind of style. But this, I very much didn't expect. Like, I saw their name going up in the standings and stuff, and I was like, okay, they're probably on, like, Blue-Red, or I expect a Grix Delver from them. But no, this is like really not what I expected, and it is truly a mid-range deck. This is not like an aggro Delver deck. I was watching them stream and for probably half the event, and they were like grinding out like really super turn 20 grindy games, as you'd expect. Like they have 3 Strix on the sideboard, I can assume, from like Delver mirrors and stuff. It is very much a mid-range deck.
This reminds me a lot of what Marius was playing at GP Strasbourg 2013. He also played Bug Delver, and he also had, I think, 3 or 4 Strixes in the sideboard for basically what you're saying, right? But he also brought them in against Control, because he said eventually Control also has to deal with them because they put pressure on Planeswalkers. And that was when Control decks didn't play Barefoot Strix or Ice Fang Codal, so they could really attack Anapos in the air, and when you get 2 of them and they attack Chase every turn, they eventually become a problem.
GP Bologna, Andrea Mengucci top 8 with 3 Strix in his Bug Delver sideboard as well.
See.
Yeah.
Andrea is a smart guy. By the way, Andrea is on a Italian talk show tonight.
Ooh, yes, I saw that.
He was invited as the stereotypical nerd, and I was almost going to tell him, like, when I saw the picture, dude, you're wearing the nicest shoes. How do you want to represent like Team Super Nerds when you're playing like wearing the nicest Italian shiny black shoes? That doesn't work that way. You gotta wear, I don't know, Converse All Stars or something.
I think he's the most likable person I've ever like just grown to know in my life. It's ridiculous. I don't know what else to say. He's just so nice and so likable, and he's always so. It's such a good mood, and there's so many emojis.
Yeah, people talk about him, and I think that's a really good comparison. I think he's literally the best ambassador the game could ever imagine.
Yeah, completely agree.
Wizards should be so thankful and shower him in all the money in the world, just because he's probably like bringing more people into Magic and giving them like a good mood and everything than anybody else.
Before this, I was watching him do a package on opening of like pre-modern cards and stuff. He's got the old school bug at the moment, which is pretty cool to watch.
Oh, he's gotten really into old school, right?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, like, just like a moment before I was watching him, like, hand out food to poor orphans and stuff.
He would.
Like, yeah, sure, Andrea, that's what he does. Maybe he doesn't talk about it.
Probably.
But yeah, this deck is cool. This deck is pretty cool.
People love Bug Delver as well. I think we'll see people play this.
Bug Delver is a healthy Delver deck. That's just like that's a really cool thing to have around. It's very straightforward. It's also the kind of deck that you could give somebody who's not that experienced in Legacy, because the playstyle and the cards are rather straightforward.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Like it.
Moving on to the next one. Without looking, Julian, can you tell me what the card Demonic Law does?
Oh, okay.
It's quite a new card.
Yeah. I actually looked it up and now I forgot again. And I thought actually there's something that's better. Fuck. Okay, I'm gonna cheat.
Okay.
I'm gonna cheat. I'm only gonna look at the artwork. Okay, it still doesn't help me.
Nice. So this is classic Ethan Formicella, who is Monkeys Can't Cry, 3rd place. He's a brilliant deck builder. He was the first person to start building Doomsday again with the release of Thassa's Oracle, and he was like just kind of casually 5-0ing all the time and doing well in prelims for about a month before people picked up on the deck being good. So nice to see him do well again. So Demonic Law is just a one-of in his sideboard, which is an enchantment for 2 and a black. As ETBs, you draw 3 cards. At the beginning of your end step, you lose 2 life for each card in your hand. So I have to imagine this comes into the combo piles where you could like Duck Ritual into it and just draw 3 quite easily.
Now I remember why I was actually looking up the card, because when I looked it up, I thought, hey, maybe Meditate could actually be better than that. But then again, Meditate, not only is it blue, which is kind of hard to cast in this deck, even though like it pitches to force, but I think here it's more important that you can cast it like much easier, especially in a deck that wants triple black. But it also, I can imagine scenarios where you can't even cast your Meditate because it might actually kill you, because drawing 4 might just be too much of a thing.
I have to imagine this is like comes in against Pyroblast matchups, is my guess.
Oh, see, another upside.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask him. He'll school us. He'll like say, oh, you guys are idiots. It's obviously this. And
you know, like 80% of cases, when you actually ask the person, they're like, oh, this was the worst card in my deck, never played. And then it gets played for like half a year because everybody copies the list and they are off. And like 2 or 3 months later, people start asking on the stream, hey, have you heard about Demonic Law? Why are you not playing? And you're like, oh my God. Like, I've been there with elves, right? Oh,
yeah, totally.
But yeah, Doomsday is probably, if you ask me, it's one of the premier decks in the format right now. It's probably super hard to tell for sure, but I think it's just really good. I think the most interesting sub-battle in Legacy going on right now is Arndt versus Doomsday. Like, which one's actually better? Because Arndt has seen a lot of play lately. It did well in both challenges. And with Dreadhot Gun, the big draw to Arndt over, for example, the Epic Storm has always been that the deck is much more capable of grinding stuff out. You know, you can often just get there with a single ritual into Past in Flames, which it's a much harder thing for the Epic Storm to accomplish. So the Epic Storm usually like tries to make stuff happen faster and go for goblins and things like that. But now that time is back in Legacy, and yeah, I could see the deck becoming a thing again, and then we will see. I think it's going to be interesting what the quote-unquote premier pilots of these decks are going to gravitate to. That's what I want to see.
I think there's two different schools of thought for Doomsday currently. There's the one with 4 personal tutors, which is the one we have here. This is like the kind of turbo one, which is super strong. I think it's the one that's putting up more results right now. But you can also go a lot more grindy approach with either Teferis or Uros and play like a kind of a control deck-esque thing, especially post-sideboard. It's to be seen what's better. I think the personal tutor one is putting up more results now, at least. So that'd be interesting.
I'm wondering, how expensive is a personal tutor? Okay. So personal tutor is like 28 euros, and it has only been printed in Portal, the way I see it.
Yeah. So,
dude, that card might actually go up. I'm just saying. I own 0 copies. I'm not typing it. I'm just thinking if like 4 copies of, is this a rare? No, this is an uncommon.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah. I could see it. Maybe Wizards got to reprint it.
When paper comes back, maybe it. Yeah. It could go up a little bit.
So you were mentioning there's 2 schools of thought, right?
Yeah. So the Turbo Doomsday with personal tutors. Game 1 especially, it's just like, well, probably in all the games, it's just looking to resolve Doomsday, and then you build the pile based on the matchup and how you need to win, which, the previous versions before Personal Tutor, like, I'm super critical of cards like Personal Tutor. I think they are, without more context, pretty bad. I hate cards that, like, tutor for something but put you down a card, but I'm wrong in this case. People are doing really well with it. Like, I've always said Limdon's Vault is terrible, and I think I've even said Vampiric Tutor can probably be unbanned, but maybe I'm wrong on those. So
Vampiric Tutor is an interesting case. You can probably like have a dedicated unban episode at some point, because the card, like, having played Vintage, it always felt like okay, but not like a standout card, and I would actually cite it out quite often. I hear Vintage has somewhat changed, that resolving your ancestor recall is just so much more important now, that people like play the kind of card again. They're basically taking the card disadvantage to get the even bigger card advantage. Oh, I've very seen that before. But yeah, that's what's going on in that deck. And what's actually the other version? What's the second school of thought for Doomsday?
I haven't like delved into them too deeply, so I don't want to like spit out a whole list, but they are like kind of leaning on Uro and Baleful Strix, and then sometimes Teferi, Time Raveler, as just like masquerading as this, like, it's especially like leaning on Strix either than going into Esper or Bug. Playing this longer game, so basically it means you don't like rely on Dark Ritual as much, and you don't rely on the personal tutor to find the Doomsday. You just play this slow game. They probably have like abrupt decays and stuff as well, and you just play a kind of control-esque kind of thing. And you have like your cantrips, your forces, your discard, your removal. You are just kind of like a bug control deck that eventually casts Doomsday, like kind of at your leisure after drawing. Like, obviously Marcus is playing Predict and Mishra's Baubles in his version.
Max Distortion has put it that way. One of them is a deck that only wants to resolve Doomsday, and the other one doesn't care about resolving Doomsday.
That's a great way of putting it. Like, fantastic way of putting it. All right, ignore everything I said and just listen to that. It's the snappy, cool way of doing it. I like it.
That's why he has a website.
Wait, we'd have a website?
Well, we're going to have a website soon, as soon as I figure out this Illustrator thing.
Nice. So yeah, we'll see how Doomsday goes. We've got some listener questions at the end, so we'll talk about Doomsday a little bit more there, I think, because it is on people's minds. People are worried about how good it is, so it'd be good to chat about it. Yeah. All right, next one. We've got Sneak and Show again. We're doing the Sunday challenge. Yeah, and a second copy of Sneak and Show. This one has 2 Spirit Guides and 4 Dazes, so very likely they just, as most good Sneak and Show players do, they copy JPA. So it's probably taken from that, and then for next week we're going to see all people off dazes and playing the Fuss Storms and spell cases like JPA. It's just the way the deck goes, I'm sure. So yeah, good showing of Sneak and Show. It's always that kind of best week one deck. Like, we always joke about it, and it always happens. Sneak and Show is just perfect for crushing people that are kind of trying to work out what to do in the format. So yeah, that's cool. Fifth place, we have Death and Taxes. I love to see it as usual. Like, it's, again, like you say, when the deck is putting up results, it's probably quite a fun format.
Yeah. I just feel Wild is never really oppressive in any kind of way, even though it's one of the probably one of the 10 most powerful cards in Legacy.
Yeah,
it's just so much fun, and it's before I ever really played Wild decks or got to somewhat understand Death and Taxes, the famous Danes, right? Innevolson, Bonda, Mark König, all these guys who play Death and Taxes religiously, they always told me playing Death and Taxes, especially the mirror, is like playing chess. And when you get to experience it, you really get to feel it. And if you have any kind of sense for liking that kind of gameplay, that's just the best place to be, I feel. And yeah, I want to see these decks prosper, not only because I often play decks that are good against them, but also because I think they make for the best kind of gameplay.
Yeah, and this one seems pretty well-rounded. Like, there's now only one Spirit of the Labyrinth. There used to be 4 because of snow and stuff. And there's a Khan sign version in the sideboard I can spy. So that's clearly with something like Grixis Control in mind, like the control decks, thinking it's coming back. So yeah, pretty cool. I'm just looking for anything else that kind of sticks out, but no, it's pretty well-rounded. Next, we have Elves. This is Aaron Relentless, who has been crushing with it for a while. This is Newton Hang's kind of version with the Reclaimers and stuff. He likes to call it Oops All Cradles. So, because
he's got the 2 crop rotations and that.
2 crop rotations, 4 Reclaimers, and obviously the 4 guards Cradles to find it. So he just says the game plan is always to get Cradle and then use how strong it is. He said he's built the deck to be as strong against Plague Engineer as possible, which makes sense. You can see in the sideboard there's a Cabal Pit, which is his answer to it. So he can crop rotation.
He also used to have that thing that I don't remember the name of the land. I will never actually remember it. It's a blue land that mills your opponent for 4 or something. So you can actually bring it in.
Ipni Rivulet.
Bless you. That's okay, people. If you guys are listening here, has anybody understood or can spell out what Callum just said? Because I really want to know. Want to know. If you're listening to this anywhere, just say it again.
If anyone played Pioneer, they'll know the format staple Ipni Rivulet. IPNU, then RIVULET.
You're just making up, dude. You're just making up vowels and consonants.
I make stuff up. All the time. So yeah,
this is not how language works, man. I'm not even sure if this is the second time you said the same thing as the first time. It's EP.96.
Oh, you got it. You got it. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. See, it's so easy. You just but you have 2 crop rotations to find it, so you can actually mess up Doomsday. Funny enough, if your opponent somewhat expects it, you can get to a mind game, and if they have, for example, a couple of Cyclers, it's not a guaranteed victory, but it gives you a lot more plus EV in that kind of matchup, so I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's really only for that matchup, and it remains to be seen whether it's worth an entire slot, but it's a really cool thing that he used to have in the sideboard there.
Yeah, definitely.
By the way, and speaking of being as good as possible against Plague Engineer, we obviously won't be going over all 64 deck lists from the 2 events, but something I have seen that really made me feel whoa, what's going on here? Prima Plume got top 32 in one of the challenges, and Prima Plume played standard straight up elves, and they had spider fucking silk armor in the sideboard.
This is a
spider silk armor.
This is a Pauper staple.
This is the Pauper staple. I remember playing Pauper for one of the very first times, and I played in one of those things where Wizards, I don't know what I think they called it the Gauntlet, right? You signed up and they gave you a random deck from the format, and they gave me a Mardu value deck. I had all kinds of blink effects, and I could draw cards like crazy, gain life, do everything, and my opponent literally put a single Spider Silk armor in play. And you could see the deck list, right? Because the Gauntlet deck lists were publicly available. And I go through my deck and I'm I literally can't beat a single Spider Silk armor. What's going, everything has reach and +0/+1. I have nothing that can attack once they get like 1 or 2 creatures on the board. I literally can't, like, I can't remove stuff, or I can't remove nearly enough stuff. I don't have like a mass removal that I literally am dead to Spiders at Garmon ever since I've been trying to make it a thing in Legacy, but I never had the balls to actually do it. But Prima Pluma went there and they put Spiders at Garmon on the sideboard, which basically completely nullifies the Plague Engineer. But it's also like kind of nice against Delver, right? Because suddenly everything you have can block Delver. That's a big thing.
Yeah, they're very true. And like Marit Lage, I guess. Yeah, it's really cool.
Marit Lage, Grizzlebrand, what have you.
Yeah, very cool. And like people are probably still, like you said, Plague Engineer is the big one. People might still be on kind of like Blazing Volley or Electric Fury and stuff like that as well. So
yeah. Oh yeah,
nice. Those cards. And rounding out this top 8, we have Boomer Ant is back. I say that with lots of love. We have it's Ant. It's got like Wishcore Talisman and stuff as well. So this is D'Amato EXP, who's Daniel, and it's just really cool to see it. I mean, I don't know, like people are saying it kind of died because of Veil and stuff, but I don't feel like that. I don't feel like it died because of Veil, and it's put up the results. Like you laughed at me last episode because I said that Veil hasn't killed the deck, but it was Red Hood Arcanist that did. But you're less drunk now. You've had less Spanish wine, so you're agreeing.
I still have a bottle of Spanish, but I'm drinking water tonight.
Good.
I'm drinking some good faucet water. I put some bubbles into it. It's called SodaStream. Maybe SodaStream is going to sponsor the stream. Or maybe, the Spanish wine company. I don't know.
I think
it remains to be seen.
Yeah. So, pretty cool stuff. So he has a Flusterstorm in the main deck, which kind of stands out to me. That is probably out of respect for Veil. He has 1 Veil himself, which is low, actually, for usual. He has 3 more on the sideboard, so I guess that makes sense. Otherwise, pretty standard. Pretty cool. And that rounds up that top 8. I thought we could mention the other just cool decks from the Saturday top 8 just quickly.
10th place, for example, right?
7th place. 10th place.
Oh, 7th place. No, 10th place.
Oh, yes. Okay, from this challenge still. 10th place is labeled UBG by Cradley, but it's this guy has posted on Reddit as well and talked about the deck, and it's called just like Bug Gotchas, which is a really cool name. And so basically it's obviously a bug deck playing Collected Company and like 4 opposition agents, 4 Hull Breaches. And it's playing like Noble Hierarchs and Green Sun Zenith to get Dried Arbor so you can enable the turn 2 Gotchas. It's pretty cool. Like I've seen people questioning the lack of Brainstorm and Ponder in the deck, but you're playing Green Sun Zenith and Collected Company. And you need to like have enough creatures. There's 28 creatures, including the Arbor. You need to have enough of these hits for these cards. I mean, Brainstorm.
This is kind of like Murfolk, honestly. This reminds me a little of like Murfolk or Slivers or stuff. Like you play a bunch of creatures and then just the bare minimum of utility. Like in this case, you play the 4 Collected Companies and the 4 Green Sun Senates, just because they're also pretty good. And other than that, you just go. You go to the face. You have your lands, you cast your spells, and then it's. Also, by the way, the Green Sun Senate, like you mentioned, it's actually the way to accelerate to 3. Yeah. So this deck really, really, really wants to go to 3. And yeah.
So yeah,
looks like it's doing it.
Because in the Reddit thread, I saw them being like questioned pretty heavily about like not playing Brainstorm, which I do get that argument as well. But I think I really like the outside the box thinking of playing a blue deck without Brainstorm. And not Chalice as well. I mean, maybe Brainstorm ends up being too good that you should play it because it kind of sets up Collected Company as well in a way. But at the same time, there's a very good argument to not playing it here because you do need to have this creature number high for Collected Company. And you want the Green Sun and the Noble Hierarchs to accelerate you. So, yeah, pretty good deck building. Yeah. Like it. I'm a fan.
That's the deck that stood out to me. If you want to cover anything else, sure, go ahead. And then
I just thought we could, because there's 2 challenges, because it's a new format. I thought I'd just we don't need to go in depths for the things, but we could mention the top 8 of the Saturday.
Sure.
So in second place, we had Blue Black Shadow. That's the one without Delvers. In third place, we had Is It Delver? With Terramander, which I didn't really expect, and no Sprite Dragon. I'm a big fan of Sprite Dragon, so I think we'll mostly see that. In fourth place, we had Ad Nauseam Tendrils again, pretty stock. We had Hogak in fifth. We had Grixis Control in sixth. Grixis Control might be back. I'm still pretty skeptical based on what I talked about earlier about Esper being better colors currently, but it's pretty cool to see that again. Colligan's Command making a return.
And it has Tombstalker. I can't stress this enough.
Tomb Daddy is back.
We were making fun, or at least I was making fun of Matt on the last podcast for suggesting Tombstalker to come back. Like, look who's laughing now. The big 5/5 flyer.
I mean, if people are playing Source Splashes, it's pretty bad. But if people are playing Bolts, it's not. But it's pretty bad against Strix, and Strix like really come back as well. So we'll see. 7th place we have Mark on Miracles, who has Baby Online. With his like very Planeswalker heavy one, he has 1 Days Undoing to go with the Narsets and 1 Hull Breach in the main. So he crushed me in the Swiss of the challenge we played. Like 3 Narsets. Oh, he has 1 Teferi and he drew it like all the games. God damn it! I shouldn't have seen this. But anyway, Narset he thinks is very good if you protect it, which makes sense. So he's using 2 Terminus and Source Plashes to keep creatures at bay. And 8th place we have another Doomsday. Looks like Bug with 4 personal tutors as well. So yeah, I just thought worth mentioning. Both challenges very diverse at the same time as having like lots of kind of similar decks doing well. But some players we haven't seen for a while, so very cool. Very happy with it.
I think overall something I want to mention is we saw Blue-Red Delver in this top 8. I think overall, Blue-Red Delver might have been the most played Delver deck of all the Delver variants in these two events, and I think that makes sense because I can't really tell you why, but I kind of feel like it might end up being the best Delver deck, at least in the short run. There's not too, like it's probably between like some kind of Delver Shadow, which has been doing pretty well as well. I think Blue-Red Delver just overall has like pretty sweet cards. Historically, it has somewhat struggled with combo, but it kind of made up for it by being faster than the other Delver decks, and especially if you have something like Sprite Dragon, that helps you out quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I think the Sprite Dragon probably is gonna be in the deck. Is there a Forager?
I think so. That card is very good, yeah. Forager I much prefer on Shadow. I think you want to play that card with Discard, because Discard is more proactive, fills your graveyard, like rather than more counter magic or burn. Like if you're playing burn, you can like throw bolts at their faces, then cast the Forager, but then it just like puts you down on disruption. But otherwise with Thoughtseize into Thoughtseize, Ponder, blah, blah, turn 3 Whale, you've now taken their removal spells for it, you at least get an attack in. I like the Whale when it has Thoughtseize, basically, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of heuristics for like post-ban, for like new metagames. And it's pretty often that you shouldn't overthink your deck building, to put it in a simple way. So basically, I think whenever like there's a like obviously the bans recently have really shaken Delver, like made people really go back to Grixis or Shadow or Blue-Red now. And I'm a big fan of starting at Blue-Red and then playing that until you see what comes out. Like Thoughtseize is not good in Delver mirrors. Maybe like Delver is still. I mean, Delver is still obviously very, very good. So if you have loads of Delver mirrors, you don't really want to be in black for Thoughtseize, but maybe just for Gurmag Angler. You want to be in Bug, like the second place list on Sunday. These things aren't clear though to me, so I think starting at like Blue-Red, having good mana, having good threats, you know what your cards do, you know you can bolt your opponent, you want to start there. And I have the same kind of idea for control decks. I think I like, for Miracles kind of style control decks, I really like starting at Blue-White. People are automatically going to Jeskai for Pyroblast, and yeah, Pyroblast probably is the right thing to play eventually, but for week 1, week 2, I really like just having like good mana. People are trying to wasteland you. You don't know if you need Pyroblast for a specific matchup. Like maybe it's not that great against Shadow, for example, and that was played a lot. It's decent against Blue-Red Delver though. I don't know. I just think you shouldn't be like hedging with these kind of things. You should just play decks with good mana, good threats. You know what they do. And so, yeah, I think we'll see lots of Blue-Red Delver based on those kind of ideas. And then as the format kind of shakes out and people understand what's going on, you'll see different splashes and stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how good something like Hooting Mandrels or Tarmogoyf are going to be, because if those cards are not going to be great, then there's very little reason to actually go into Ruck, right?
Yes.
You'd much rather be into Bug because you're going to get this card out of it. I guess the other upside is you get the Pyroblast that you mentioned, but as you said, it remains to be seen whether that's actually something you want.
Yeah, like for example, if you're playing Hooty Mandrels and Tarmogoyf, if you played against the Esper deck I played, I mean, you're dealing with like Baleful Strixes and Unearthing Baleful Strixes and Swords and Snap Swords. Like it's just your worst threats you can imagine. Whereas, at least, yeah, I guess the deck is just quite good against Delver itself anyway. But Blue-Red Delver is just better because your threats are a lot more like fast forwarded, like just kind of clear, attack you, bolt you out. You have more bolts for whatever creatures people are playing, way more creatures against.
Pyromancer, Nemesis.
Yeah,
that's something that's better against Strix as well. I mean, that's where your Plague Engineers comes in. But I mean, we already know that your deck is basically unbeatable.
Yeah, kind of. It is pretty good against Delver. I think it hasn't lost against that yet.
You know, if you find a deck that's pretty good against Delver and also decent against combo, then that's probably the place where you want to be in order to like get a pretty good win percentage.
Yeah, I think the deck is actually quite good. It's performed way better than I thought.
I thought you said it performed very better than I am as a player. I was like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I've played okay in the challenge. I made a bunch of mistakes as well, as everyone always does. I got a little bit lucky, as you always do, to do well in events. But yeah, I was questioning it. I played it because I thought it was fun, first and foremost. But people have been reporting back they did well. I saw the Japanese streamer who is Mopanda. He streamed and he kind of like lost a very close match for a 5-0. I've had a lot of friends message saying they tried it and 4-1 quite easily. So yeah, the deck is actually seems pretty good. And I think Esper colors are just strong right now. You want swords and you want hate bears for combo, and it's a place to be, in my opinion.
Awesome. Is there anything else that sticks out to you that you want to talk about? Like, for example, I saw a sweet Landstill deck that played 4 standstills, 2 modes and stuff, Shark Typhoon. Is there anything else, or should we just move on to listener questions?
I would have to go through them again, so let's move on because I haven't gone through it completely. But I did see that standstill list, and yeah, hell yeah, moat, bring it back. So yeah, it's probably pretty good if people are playing. I was about to say creatures. It seems so simple, but yeah, standstill. It seems pretty decent, honestly. Very cool.
Yeah, there's some sweet stuff going on.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of. It wasn't really a deck before, but Arkan has been streaming it, and Rob Gladiator, good player from. I think he lives in Berlin, but he's from Italy. But these kind of like bug Uro decks, but they are like leaning on Field of the Dead as a win con, which I'm pretty scared of.
Okay.
So these kind of things have just kind of popped up as like the kind of week 1 control deck, which has kind of surprised me, but it's pretty good. I think there's something there. Field of the Dead is quite an underplayed card in Legacy, in my opinion. And if you are like ramping out with Uro and stuff, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I remember when Snow was big, Marius and I, we tried to make it a thing in Maverick, just so that we can have some like end game trump card against those decks. Mm-hmm. But then they also started playing Moon, and like the way the games played out, like occasionally making like the 2/2 zombie in the late game, didn't really work out all that way in Maverick. But I think if you do it in a deck like that has a lot more things going on, and yeah, I could see it. It's actually, to me, it's just like overall just super exciting when people bring non-super broken cards into the format and try to make them a thing, right? I mean, we're laughing now. Maybe half a year from now, we're going to be like, oh my god, Field of the Dead again. Oh, thank you very much. Can we please go back to
It is very
Breach?
much that kind of card. It's like, oh my god. It's such a... When you see it and you know it's good against your deck, you're like, oh, fuck. So yeah, maybe we'll get there. But
by the way, check this out. 32nd place. Oh my god, that name. MW_94GA, whatever that means.
Yeah. This deck is sick.
They are playing... This deck is insanely sick, right? They're playing... Is it Bug Dreadnought? So they're playing 4 Phyrexian Dreadnought. And, I mean, some of you might remember, for those who don't, it's a 1-mana 12/12 trample.
Don't say anymore. Yeah, don't say anymore. That's cool. That's it.
That's how it was introduced to me, like almost 25 years ago when I first heard about it. And the catch is, when it comes into play, you have to sacrifice enough creatures in total to cover basically power 12. So you already gotta have 12 power in play in order to actually stick this around. Otherwise, it's just gonna die to its own ability. So the way you historically used to get around that is Stifle, and they are rocking for Stifle, but they also have 3 copies of Torpor Orb, which not only takes away the comes into play ability of the Phyrexian Dreadnought, so it's straight up 1-mana 12/12 trample. It also takes away the comes into play ability of Uro, which they're also playing, so it doesn't die to its own ability. So you have a 3-mana 6/6 trample when it attacks, draws a card, and gains you 3 life.
It's not bad.
It's insane.
Torpor Orb is actually quite a good card in the format. Again, you laughed at me last week for suggesting the card is good, and you
did I? Oh my god, what's happened to me?
Drunk Julian was up to no good. But I mean, imagine you're playing against Doomsday and you just like game 1 Torpor Orb with them.
It's like, okay, attack me with your Murphy. Come on, bring it on. I have a 12/12 trample. Get through it.
Exactly. So it's pretty cool. And like, I guess they expected D&T. I mean, imagine you play against Esper Vile and you just like game 1 Torpor Orb them.
It's also good against elves. No card draw, no card off Behemoth.
Very true. So it's pretty cool. I like this deck a lot. This player is another Japanese player, and they've done very well with like blue-white Blade with Niv Magus Elemental as well and stuff. They're a real brewer. Very cool. Actually, I'd love to. I'm gonna do this. I've been planning for a while to gather loads of Twitter accounts of lots of Japanese players because they're just incredible deck builders, and there's so much like innovation and thoughts about it. So I'll look out for a tweet from me soon with like a list of all these Japanese players because I love what they're up to.
Awesome. Yeah. I see they're also playing 3 copies of Hydroblast. They know what's going on, man.
Oh yeah, they're.
What are you looking to counter those Hydroblasts there?
Pyroblasts.
Yeah, but those are not even that great against you. Then
Yeah,
they
they're
pyroblast you, Oro, you bring it back.
It's true. It's true. You know what? I'm not really sure, honestly.
Burn. Maybe a removal on your top orb, like a braid. I don't know.
Maybe.
But that's already pushing it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe they're just like straight up there to counter like brainstorm and shit. Or Baleful Strix. Baleful Strix is pretty good against red. But I guess you wouldn't bring in like Hydro. Oh no, actually no, that's not a red card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure. I
So.
actually gotta admit, like I can't like try to pull stuff out of my ass, but I'm really not sure. There's probably like something super smart that I'm missing, but
Maybe we can ask them. This player posted a really sweet Esper Stoneforge deck today as well. I think with Unearths and stuff. So maybe they saw the Mentor list and they 5-0'd a league with basically taking out Mentor and putting in Stoneforge Mystic, which I had joked with people about. If you want to make the deck worse, do this. But they did well with it. So yeah, I can't really talk. They played three, they played 3 Drown in the lock in their deck as well, which seems pretty sweet.
Oh, you just mentioned Stoneforge Mystic. We should actually we should keep up a Stoneforge Mystic watch to see how well that card is actually going to do in the metagame, because it's not getting a lot of love right now. And
there was a straight blue-white blade list in one of the challenges as well, in the top 32.
Oh, one of them actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah.
I mean, just like Stoneforge Mystic is the exact opposite of almost anything I want to do in Legacy. It loses tempo. It puts everything on the line and like spending a lot of mana on something that can easily be stopped. So I'm not super keen on Stoneforge, and I think I'm only playing 2 copies of it in Maverick right now.
If Blue Red Delver picks up in play and like continues to be a pretty big thing, I'm a big fan of like playing 2 Stoneforges and a Balisca on the sideboard of blue-white control decks actually, because they won't bring in a Braids and stuff in the blind. And it's super powerful in the sideboard games. So, that's the kind of thing I'd be looking to do. It's great in D&T, obviously, but otherwise I agree. It's not. I think there's just better threats to be doing, but there's uses for it. So I can.
What blue-white Stoneblade decks or blue-white control decks should actually play? They should just play like True Name Nemesis and Worship.
Well, then you get Plague Engineered,
but not out of blue-red Diver.
I guess.
But I guess you still got to resolve your 4-mana enchantment. But yeah.
Yeah, and there'll be Pyroblasting your True Names. But yeah.
On the stack, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe this is where Hydroblast comes in then.
Yeah, okay, fine. I see.
Yeah, so overall, like lots of sweet decks to choose from. Like there's really nothing that says, hey, you gotta play me or you're definitely gonna feel worse, other than, Mentor Control that Callum is putting out right now.
Yeah, like actually, as a note on Uro, I mean, there's been a lot of like kind of quote unquote hot takes from people saying, yeah, obviously Uro is still good, and yeah, obviously Delver's still good. I didn't really see people saying they didn't think these cards would be good. It's kind of like a pretty lukewarm take in my opinion. But
the hottest of hot takes,
I know,
are
right?
usually like the most boring ones.
I know, right? But Uro does feel like someone put these words earlier, so I'm stealing them. But they said Uro feels like a choice now rather than a card you have to play, which I think is true and really cool. The card is really obnoxiously good against Delver still. It's super strong, obviously. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. The card is great, so expect to play versus it more. I think these bug control decks will keep doing well, but we'll see where it goes.
I'm just getting a little bit confused. I just got a notification on my phone, which like it still can send me stuff, but I can't click anything. We just talked about the Japanese Magic scene, and apparently we got a picture from somebody from the Japanese Magic scene, and I'm only seeing the thumbnail and it looks gross. It looks like, okay, I can't even say what it is. It's probably some kind of weird fruit that I have never heard about, but yeah, it's going to be a surprise. Maybe I can post it to the Discord.
Nice, cool.
And speaking of Discord, should we move on to the questions?
Yeah, definitely.
Sure. So we received overall something like 5 listener questions for this episode. So if you want to submit your questions, you can become a Patreon on patreon.com/everydayeternal and join our community where we mostly share food, weird jokes, and sometimes also questions with regard to Legacy. So the first one comes from our good friend Franco Bolli. Pair the question for the show post. How do you control your emotions while you are playing and slow down? Basically, how do you stay cool? How do you win those tournaments?
I think this comes from the easy answer is playing a lot, really. I think it's people get kind of stressed out when they're playing in like high stakes situations, or they're doing well in a tournament. And the number one thing to remember is that's fine. It's okay to be stressed out in a situation that you're not usually in or you're not sure about. it's fine to be nervous. It's okay to be kind of emotional about it as well. And if you feel like you're being too emotional, if it's in paper, it's a bit different. But if you're playing online, you have a pretty long clock. Take a second, just stand up away from the computer, and then get back to it. A lot of people think that you have to be like they watch all these pros on coverage, or they watch streams of people that do it all the time, and they're very in control of themselves and like playing slowly and carefully, whatever. Not everyone's like that. Like I still get pretty like during the finals of the challenge, I was feeling like oh shit, don't mess this up. Like I had the idea in my head, but I was like I still like oh god, I've still got to execute your plan, clicking the mouse and whatever. So yeah, like. It's easier said than done, I know, but do just take a second when you think you need it. You go and get a drink. Like it's your clock. You can use it how you want to. So,
sure.
and just know that having these emotions hit you is not a bad thing.
Yeah, for me, it's basically two things. The first thing that I've been telling people a while, it's also basically what you said, right? It's about playing a lot. When I care when I lose, of course, but it's not the end of the world, really. First of all, I'm like not a pro, like my livelihood doesn't depend on it, even though like the money would probably be really nice. But you can always try again. These tournaments are happening twice a week. And you can try so many times. So only if you are like mentally committed to this is gotta be the one, then you're making pressure where there shouldn't really be pressure. Like if you somehow only have the time to play like one tournament a year, or like very rarely, it sucks. But even then, if you can make the time, you can play these tournaments twice a week, and you will get to those spots again, because every time you play, you get better. I'm so convinced of like if you approach it like with an open mindset, every time you play, you become a better player. And the second thing that really helps me manage these things, and people like especially in paper tell me that it's like really weird when they play me in paper, and I for many years I didn't even know that until like several people independently told me. They're like, when I sit down against you, it feels like I already lost. I'm like, why? And they're like, yeah, because you just like come across as if you were gonna win, and that's literally what I think. That's like not a cocky thing of like, oh, I'm so much better, I'm gonna win. It's more a thing of, I mean, somebody's gotta win, might as well be me, right? Why wouldn't it be me?
You are going in trying to win, right?
Yeah. But also like it feels like the most natural thing that I assume that I'm gonna win, because I'm gonna try my best, and then we will see. And I mean, somebody has to win, and even if I'm up against LSV or Red Duke or something, somebody has to win. At times it can be me, right? So it feels like the natural thing. Why would I ever not think that I'm gonna win? And that takes away a lot of the pressure. And then if I mulligan to 5, that's just like, okay, sure. Then it's always people like I haven't read a book like that, but you always hear about these things where it's like, picture yourself getting the job, winning, but probably like not winning the lottery. People don't write self-improvement books about like winning the lottery. That's probably like a weird thing. But the thing that you always hear is like people say, picture yourself doing this, imagine yourself doing that, or like when you have to do something in sports, picture yourself scoring the winning goal and stuff. And I guess subconsciously that's what happens to me in every game. I always think about, okay, I mulligan to 5, they kept on 7, so how do I win from here? So usually that means I get a blowout on something like this, and maybe they flood on lands here, and then like this just like, and then I play towards that. And if it doesn't work that way, okay. But sometimes it does, and then I put myself in the best position to do that. And I think that kind of, how do you call that?
It's self-confidence.
Self-confidence, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably like the easiest way to put it. that kind of self-confidence of, hey, I can always find a way to win, and if I don't, then whatever, I can try again. That just... Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think on the last episode, I just said, well, if it doesn't work, you just go home and fuck your girlfriend when I was a little bit more drunk. I only noticed that when I edited the episode. But that's kind of the attitude. And I mean, you can substitute that for anything you like. Like, for example, sometimes when I like, don't top at a challenge, which I guess it's not what you expect. But if I do really badly in a challenge and I drop like 0-2 early, then I end it and I'm like, oh sweet, now I have like 5 more hours of doing anything else. I can play like video games or go outside or do this.
If you can focus on positives, I think it's really good. Like people always joke that the best record after coming first is going 0-2. Which is this, yes, kind of some truth to it. It's better than 4-3. But even back to it, I think it just comes from being in a familiar situation over and over again. So as you play more and as you get to these situations, like the more you play, the better you'll start doing, hopefully. And the more you'll be in these positions of doing well or top 8, just like on the cusp of top 8ing. I know I've got some friends that like have kind of choked a lot of their win-ins for a while and they get really down about it. But the more you do it, the more accustomed you become to that situation, the more confident, hopefully, you become at that point. And it's like a game where you save the game at each point every time you get there, and so hopefully you can come back to it again and then do it again.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about your friends who lost so many win-and-ins. I think I have the most legacy top 8s on the MKM series, but I also have the most lost win-and-ins for top 8s on the MKM series. So it's like...
Because you just play a lot. It's the classic Eric thing. People were saying, oh, you just play a lot. That's why you have so much trophies.
I guess you could put it like that too.
Yeah. Cool. Should we go into the second question?
Sure.
Yeah, so this one's from Good Brother saying, could we have a Medley Mage primer versus the expected top decks in the meta that you played against? I know a lot of it's situational, but a general plan would be awesome. So actually, I didn't realize we should have probably added this in earlier, but in the meantime, I've got MTG Goldfish open, so I'll run through. So the card is pretty much for combo. I don't think there's any fair matchups where I'd bring it in against. So I'll run through what MTG Goldfish is saying for combo. So I think I'd bring it some number in against elves, and against elves, it very much depends on your hand. If your hand is not set up to beat like Korean, Wildwood Symbiote and Elvish Visionary, I would probably name Greenstone Zenith. Or if they have like a big board, you might have to name Natural Order. You could name Allosaurus Shepherd as well if you're pretty weak to that. So that one kind of depends. I think Greenstone's probably going to
Abrupt Decay.
You can name Abrupt Decay if you have like the board under control.
Like if you have a Plague Engineer and you name Abrupt Decay, that's really hard for elves to still win.
Yeah, good point. So Abrupt Decay after Plague Engineer if you have that as well. Yeah, that's good idea. Sneak and Show, again, depends on your hand. I would often name a Sneak Attack because that's the one that's going to like cast a Sneak Attack and put an Emrakul straight away and just obliterate your board or kill you on the spot. Against Show and Tell, they can still Show and Tell in the Sneak Attack, but then they need 3 cards, and if they just Show and Tell in an Emrakul, you have an out to like a Teferi to bounce it or something. So it's situational. Maybe you name Show and Tell, maybe you name Sneak Attack. Those are the common ones. Doomsday, surprisingly, you named Doomsday or Thassa's Oracle. This is always going to be after sideboard, so I'm always going to expect that they have some removal in their deck. So if they've already cast Doomsday, I'd be naming the Thassa's Oracle, or if you're playing a second Medley Mage, I'd probably name Abrupt Decay or Pyroblast if they have red. But if they haven't cast Doomsday yet, I think I would just name Doomsday. Because if you don't, they can Doomsday and just put the removal spell in the pile and kill the Medley Mage. Yeah. I bring them in against Hogak. It really depends there. Like if you're really... This is because I think the matchup's really bad and you have to spike with it. So I'd probably name Alter if I didn't have counter magic. I played it against Hogak in the quarterfinals, and I named Stitcher Supplier and Hedron Crab with them. So it depends what you're scared of. At that point, they had no board presence, so those were the cards I was scared of to get like some good mills.
Those are the cards that can really snowball.
Exactly.
I mean, you can also name Hogak, right? And that also somewhat stops the Alter kill.
Yes. So if they have like a board presence, but you've kind of got it under control, you can name either Hogak or Alter. Because there's Source of Flashes in the deck, I was more scared of Alter in those kind of situations. I'd probably name it there, but yeah,
good point.
It's very realistic to name quite a lot of things in that deck. It's not an easy one to answer. Reanimator, if you run into it, if they haven't got a creature in the graveyard, I'd name Entomb. If they do, probably name Animate Dead, because you quite often will have a creature in your graveyard.
Yeah.
So probably Animate Dead most, but if they have loads of life and you don't have a clock, you could name Reanimate because it's 1 less mana, so they could like double spell. If you have a bunch of counter magic or surgicals, you could name Unmask. If they have green, you could name Veil if they have it, but I think that's pretty uncommon. So
Veil is already like... If it's your only Medley Mage...
Actually, no, you wouldn't do that. I think it's very common to either name Entomb or one of the Reanimate spells, or Unmask. I think that against Ant, I would name Infernal Tutor basically every time first. I saw the guy do a recap of his stream yesterday, and he played against Medley Mage twice. One of them was me, where I named Infernal Tutor, and then Tendrils of Agony, because I was quite cold to that being naturally drawn. But I think there's a very good argument to name Infernal Tutor, then Abrupt Decay in that spot.
I mean, that's still the... what's the artifact again? Drishclaw Talisman, which makes it a little bit harder.
Ant plays like 1 or 2 of them. Against Tez, you might name that. But against Tez, I'd name Burning Wish, probably.
That's a good name.
Yeah. So against Tez, you usually name Burning Wish because that's both their win con and their answer to a hate bear. So it's quite a clean one. Wishful Talisman is a good second name against them. because against Ant earlier in the challenge, the guy played against a Bant kind of deck that played 2 meddling mages, both of them named Tendrils, and he just he killed them easily. I think he just Infernal Tutor for an Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decayed one, Infernal Tutored for Past in Flames, Abrupt Decayed the second one, and then killed him.
I did that. Yeah. I did that 11 years ago. I will never forget. That was so embarrassing. I ran out Meddling Mage, and I played Esper Blades back then against a Aunt, and I ran out my Meddling Mage, and I'm so happy. I'm like, oh yeah, got named Tendrils of Agony, and everybody around me was like, ooh. Oh dear. I'm like, oh, I get him, and then like, okay, draw my deck, kill your Meddling Mage, whatever.
Exactly. GG. They really don't care about that very much. So Infernal Tutor is really good to turn off, basically. Omnitel, you name Show and Tell 99% of the time. If you have a hand that's set up to beat, or if they have a Beseju, you still name it. But there's a few situations where you could name either Veil or Cunning Wish as well, but mostly Show and Tell.
Yeah, in this matchup, I could see naming Whale if your hand works out that way, right? Yeah, but usually you would just go ahead and you name the Show and Tell.
Yeah, and I think that's most of the combo decks. Maybe I missed a couple, but that's the big ones. So we can go on from there.
Multiman is asking, will Doomsday be the boogeyman of the format post-bans? Which version will be the dominant build and how should we be fighting it? How long can it fly under the radar until it starts to go on WotC's watch list? So I think we already talked about the two different versions, the 4 personal tutor versions and the all-in, not all-in, but much more dedicated to Uro versions. I think
the personal tutor version is obviously doing better straight away, and it feels a bit better. If the format goes, it depends on the format rather than the players. I think if the format makes them need to play something like Uro and become more grindy, then they have that option to go to. But I think the personal tutor version is probably a bit better.
Yeah. Is it going to be the boogeyman of the format? I think it's way too early to tell whether it's going to be the boogeyman of the format or whether it's actually going to go onto WotC's watch list. I think that's even later, definitely. If it was ever going to happen. There's nobody really in the format at all complaining about it right now, and I think it's just way too early. If I had to guess, and if you told me half a year from now there's something we might complain about, I could see Thassa's Oracle being among those cards. Yeah. But right now I think it's way too early.
Yeah, I hate the kind of the thing where people ask your opinion on something. Not that this is happening here with this question, but someone asks your opinion on something, and I would say there's no way you would think about banning something from Doomsday currently. But then in 6 months' time or 12 months' time, we are in a situation where actually it is too good, and they're like, yeah, well, you didn't say that, so kind of told you so. This it's a similar thing with Oko. I kind of defended Oko for a good half a year because I think it is important to see if they are actually too good, and it was eventually, and maybe we see that here. But I think currently it's definitely not on the watch list as well. It's really, really, really strong. It's very hard to hate out as well, which is what frustrates a lot of people. The general things, it's pretty good against Chalice and Trinisphere and all these kind of things. Mind Rate Trap doesn't really get it. It's very strong against Force Will because of Cavern. It's really strong against a lot of normal hate, and it can fight through so much things. But I think it's going to make people think outside the box. There's a lot of narrow answers to it. People are saying Angel's Grace. Not Mind Break Trap, but the other trap, the one that mills, is really funny against it. Archive Trap.
Archive Trap, yeah.
Because Doomsday searches their library, so as soon as they finish casting the Doomsday, you just mill their 5 cards, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty funny.
I've been playing 2 copies. I've been playing 2 copies of Avon Mindsense and Maverick lately, and those have been working out really well.
Yeah, and
lots of tutoring going on.
To go back to the Esper deck. My sideboard is super hateful against combo. I have 4 meddling mages, and this is out of respect for Doomsday and Omnitel because I think these decks are very strong. So, yeah, meddling mage is really good. You can do other things, so we'll see. I think meddling mage is probably going to be played quite a lot in this format coming up. Is my prediction.
Sweet.
Next one, we have another one from Franco, getting a couple in there. Nice. How many humans versus non-humans does your gut tell you is needed to make the card tick? Talking about of one mind and creatures CMC and rolls, etc. And last question from me, I promise. What is your stance on the Tuscany versus non-Tuscany rivalry that you have now ignited in the Italian legacy community? Love it. Man. So, of one mind.
Did we?
I know. I like that you've said, "What does your gut tell you?" Because my answer is, I don't really know. I feel like you want to have Strix and Snapcaster is a really big core of the deck because those two are kind of bodies that just stick around after they've got their value. So it's very common to get those two into play together, and then you can have a token maker, be it Mentor or Young Pyromancer. I don't really know. I haven't really explored or even thought about options outside of this too much. So that's my go-to. I think you want at least 3 of the token maker because it's the more common way of doing it. And then you want like 2 or 3 snapcasters and probably 3 or 4 Strix is a pretty good core. The only other way I've been thinking of doing this is I want to build an Urza deck with it because you play Urza. Urza's a human. It makes a construct. And the construct taps for a blue as well, so you can cast it off 1 mind straight away. So that's my my next fun thing. I want to build it probably with Stoneforge Mystic with Thopter Foundry and Sword.
And you can also play it in Chalice because off 1 mind is still 3 mana. Oh man,
true.
That's so cute.
So yeah, that's my next thing. Like Urza Blade with off 1 mind. But yeah, generally those numbers I just said. And the question about Tuscany, just to make everyone else aware, this is because we were hanging out with the True Hero guy and stuff when they were streaming, and those guys don't like people from the Tuscany area, or there's some really fun rivalry. And so I was getting translations from Franco about what to say to them. And I think at the end I was saying like Viva Tuscany, Viva Pisa, because they have a fun rivalry there. So
Forza Tuscany.
Forza Tuscany, Forza Pisa. So
yeah.
My stance is I'm going to say whatever annoys people. That's how you have to do it. Like, so.
That's how you win those challenges. You put people on tilt.
So yeah, exactly. I tell people to play bad cards and 3 Force of Wills and put people on tilt. So,
I just want to say that Tuscany is one of the most amazing regions in the entire world I have ever visited. I love Florence. I don't know, man. That city made me stop playing World of Warcraft. That's all I'm gonna say.
Wow. Okay, fine. I've never been there actually, so I need to.
Oh, dude, we really should go. Like, let's honestly, like once COVID gets better and everything, and you're gonna be allowed to leave your island and stuff. Like, we should really go to. They're gonna have those tournaments in Pisa.
Yep.
What's it called? The
Nebraska's
War.
Oh yeah, that one's all.
4 seasons stuff. Yeah, everything. Like Italy is all the tournaments.
We're going
gonna
to Italy.
go there.
100%. 100%.
Every day channel goes Italy.
Agree.
And then we're gonna do an entire episode like just speaking Italian. But I guess we gotta do it like it's a video podcast then.
Yeah, we should. I just gotta say I absolutely love all the Italian guys. Like, there's so many of them. They have a huge Discord community. Like, a bunch of them are streaming. They're always chatting with each other. They're so emotional about the game, but in a good way. They're not, like, super salty or whatever. They just have that raw emotion, and so I love it. So, yeah.
Yeah, we should all be a little bit like Andrea Mengucci.
Definitely. Oh, yeah, we could all
talked
be.
Talked about that earlier. Yeah. I love that you said, like, you love the Italian scene. There's so many of them. It's like, probably, like, I don't know. My guess would be, like, 60 million. I don't know.
I like all of them. Every single one.
Awesome. So, what's our last question, actually? Our last question comes from Disco Drogo. Top 5 potentially good cards that just couldn't get proper testing in the Precious meta. Thinking Skycliff Operation cards.
Good question. Nothing like jumps to mind.
It's not really specific to the meta for me right now. It's just like I've always kind of thought that maybe, but it's so stupid. But I kind of want Defense of the Heart to be a thing in Legacy. Actually, I don't want it to be a thing because it would be really bad. But I don't know that.
I played a league with it like a year ago. Did you see how I used it? I'll make you stream.
You searched your library for creatures?
Yes. Do you know what creatures you should get?
Well, in the past you got Mephidros Vampire and Triskelion.
Okay, so now we have the brand new age. I would get Leveler and Thassa's Oracle.
And then you get 2 triggered abilities, and you literally you only use the Stifle at that point.
Well, you see how you have to stack it right, because if you stack it wrong, you lose. If you stack it right, you win. But yeah. I went 3-2 in a league.
That's a little bit better than Mephidros Vampire and
just a little bit. So yeah, I went 3-2 in a league. I'll make you stream it. You'll love it.
How did you give your opponent creatures? Did you do like the Oath thing with Orchard?
Yeah, Orchard. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's very fun.
You could play the hunted creatures. The hunted creatures also give your opponents creatures.
True. Actually, this deck had Uro and Oko and Valen and all this stuff. So.
Oh, no, it makes a lot more sense.
Actually, well, we just lose Oko. Anyway, we'll rebuild it for the thing. I just realized for this question of 1 mind, probably, like what the whole podcast is about. That's one of the potentially good cards that couldn't get proper testing because Mentor and Young Pyromancer weren't great previously. Anything else spring to mind? It's a very good question. I think I'm gonna have to say I'm not sure, and if I think of something, say it in the Discord.
Yeah, we're gonna say it in the Discord if you can think of something. Maybe also gonna bring it up in the next podcast if you can.
Maybe the whale,
something.
Ethereal Forager.
Yeah, the whale is already almost established at this point in the format, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Maybe that's crazy to say, but yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's Even Mind Sensor. I feel like I'm the only person playing Even Mind Sensor in the last one year or two. It was insane for me at the GP at Bologna, like under 1.5 years ago or something. It keeps doing well in Maverick for me because there's so many search effects going on right now. And but I can't even say I didn't get enough time testing it because I've been playing it for something like 11 years now on and off, and I think Even Mind Sensor is really good. It's a flash threat that carries equipment pretty well, and it also disrupts not most, but a lot of combo decks. I really like it. And on top of that, it's also really good and the mid-range mirror with Stoneforges against Death Texas. They also have Recruit of the Guard and that kind of stuff. It hoses Knight. It occasionally hoses fetch lands. It gets Doomsday really hard. It does a lot of things.
Yeah, nice. I like it. Natural Order, I guess, as well. And Green Sun.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. And then they still hit, and you're like, oh come on.
Yeah. True.
But yeah, that happens. So I think we're gonna call it a day here. We're approaching somewhat like 2 hours. You're gonna play your rock and scissors game with your friends? No.
What's the time now? 9:30. Maybe. We'll see. Gonna eat something, and then I'll see if they're still online. Actually, I'll tell you. I'll send you the game. I'll tell you how good it is. I think you'll love it.
Oh yeah. We should play it. We shall play it eventually. We only got a couple of Among Us games in, but maybe we can play the rock game.
Yeah, totally.
It's just so stupid. Name.
It is a co-op game.
You know what my favorite thing is? When Mega Man came out, they're like, okay, what are we gonna name this? Like in the Japanese original, it's called Rockman. Which I guess there's some flavor, but then they take it to the US and they're like, no. We're going to name it Mega Man. Yes.
I was going to say Rockman's way better.
Yeah, it's just like the spirit of the 80s. Mega Man.
Yeah.
Next Magic crossover. That would actually be sweet. God. You can see the opponents like if you kill a creature, then you get all of its activated abilities or something. That probably already exists. I mean, Quicksilver Metal can kind of do that for blue.
Yeah. Clone it. Oh, there's Evil Twin. Evil Twin, there you go. It's a clone that then has an ability to tap it and pay 2 mana to kill something with the same name.
Yeah, but that's not exactly how Mega Man works.
Fine.
You gotta kill the thing first. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna make a Mega Man podcast. Okay. I can see. Okay, cool. We're gonna call it a day here. If you want to support Everyday Channel, the thing that helps us the most, actually the thing that really helps us the most is if you spread the word. I keep saying it, but it's the biggest thing. If you tell your friends, we keep getting so many new followers on our Twitter account at EternalMTG. That's just like the coolest thing ever. If you come to a Discord, hang out, maybe even post your sweet food to our Everyday Eternal channel, that we would be really down for that. And if you want to come to the Discord, you can do that by becoming a Patreon, patreon.com/everydayeternal. Or if you want to do something else, you can also head to Apple Podcasts, which is not called iTunes anymore and probably hasn't been in 10 years, and leave a review. Your review is going to be specific to your country, so you could be the first person to leave a review from, wherever. And yeah, we really appreciate that. And your review is also going to be on our new website. And yeah, I think that's going to be it from us today. We really want to thank all the people that make this work, but especially our highest tier Patreons on the Eternal Witness tier: Tommy Hinks, Trent Browers, Testacular, Sebastian Holager, and Severin Schwarzhuber. And our Grizzlebrand tier supporters: Victor Penhatz, Bachubat, Scott Monroe, Jeremy Gates, Henrik Korkutz, and the amazing Tom Happ, who's still on his legacy vacation, but he shall be back soon, right?
I hope he's back, because he always just comes in to take my money. So, if I with me winning the challenge, that might be enough. He might smell blood and he'll come and crush me again.
Awesome. So yeah, that's gonna be it from us for today, and yeah, see you again in March when everything's gonna be of one mind.
See you guys.
Bye bye.